Hey, so today we're going to be catching up with the news. Aaron Taylor Johnson cast as Craven the Hunter. We'll be talking about the Okoye possible TV show. Some updates on the Black Superman as well as Joker 2. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Of course, another fantastic intro. So here we go. By making Cavill this guy again. Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today I'm here with my good friends Ashley, the Widow, as well as Warren. What up, guys?
Hey.
Good. How are you?
Cool. I'm good. I'm just like I'm astounded by how good my intros are doing. But what's up with you guys? Like, tell them about. Well, I think most of the people know about your channel. You can say just quickly about your channel and what you're doing, Warren, as well.
I am Ashley, aka the Widow, and I'm getting ready to upload a video here in just a moment on my channel. Go check it out. Nerdman will be in that video. K-Dot, I believe, is in that video. Pickle's in that video, Philosophical Pickle, and we're talking about the Eternals. So go check that out. I'm the Widow. That's my channel. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all those things.
Yeah. Warren,
I'm just
cloud
chasing
contributor.
I'm trying to work on a new channel, but I want to get a lot of information. It's gonna involve men mostly, in a sense. That's as much as I could say.
What?
And,
wow.
Did you say men? Did you say men?
Yeah, you said men. I was like,
yes, men.
Okay.
Men in general.
I think he means the issues of men rather than
issues in men.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, what? I thought you were saying it's culture for men.
It's like ex-boyfriends. He wants to just
no ex-boyfriends. No, nothing like that. But yeah, that's all I have going for me at the moment.
I mean, congratulations on building your channel, though, Warren.
Yep.
That's nice.
So let's talk about. I've spelled everything wrong. I'm looking at my little banner down there. Let's talk about Craven the Hunter casting. Now I know Ashley, you have some rather explosive kind of opinions on it. Is it Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Aaron freaking Taylor Johnson. That's his full name.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yes.
He's been cast as Craven the Hunter very recently. Who is is he a big Spider-Man villain? We'll get into it because I'll tell you my opinion on it. But he's recently been cast as him for Sony Pictures Spider-Verse movie universe that they're trying to build. I think they're trying to build like a secret six villainous team. I don't know who they're going to face, if they're going to be facing Tom Holland or if they're going to be facing Andrew Garfield. Who knows? But that's what they're doing at the moment. So what's your opinion on it, guys? And on the casting?
Warren, you
on
can
the
go
casting
first,
specifically.
Why? I was going to say ladies first, but okay.
I mean, I don't think we've heard enough. Like, some people have heard mine, so I want to hear your opinion, and then I'll give mine.
Oh,
that's all I'm saying.
So when I heard this casting, I thought of, hey, hi, how are you doing, Rhea? I thought of Human Torch, kind of like what happened with what's his name? I can't think of the Captain America actor. Jesus Christ, why can't I remember it right now?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yes, Chris Evans. So I was like, okay, so because remember he's basically paid Quicksilver for just one role, one movie. Kind of got scapegoated and killed, and was like, wow, that kind of sucks. We don't get the speedster character. And I was like, his accent when he did like the, I guess, kind of Czech slash was okay, I guess. His badass kick ass movies were pretty good. The second one wasn't that great. The first one was.
But he was good in both.
Yeah, he was good in both. I'm okay with it because like this is one of those castings where it's another Heath Ledger sort of deal where it's like Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't know about this dude, but we haven't gotten like a teaser yet. We don't know. Craven is an important character to the Spider-Man mythos because he's hunted him plenty of times. If you were to speak to Rogue Comics, there's a specific storyline where it's very dark with Spider-Man. So I would, if I can get the info, I'll send it to you. But that's
which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Craven's Last Hunt?
Yeah, Craven's Last Hunt.
It's a great
story. Let me jump in there really quickly with where I'm at with this, right?
Sure.
I don't know, like Craven for me as a character, if Aaron Taylor Johnson was being cast as the Joker or Riddler or some kind of important, DC villain, no, I'm joking, some important villain in the Spider-Man universe, I'm kidding. Like if it was like, Green Goblin or something like that, and it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, I'd be annoyed. Or Venom, just like I'm annoyed when, who's playing
Tom Hardy?
Venom? No. Who's playing
Morbius is Jared Leto.
Not Venom, the other guy.
Morbius?
Carnage?
In the Venom film, Carnage, basically.
Woody
Harrelson. Woody Harrelson is playing Carnage. That's bad casting to me. I like Woody Harrelson a lot, but that's terrible casting for Carnage. He's too goofy for that kind of character. You need somebody a bit more like scary, who can play like a proper serial killer and be a little bit more serious with it. And so that's terrible casting. So when it comes to characters like Carnage, who for me are iconic characters, I am a little bit more worried about the casting. When it comes to the lesser characters, lesser villains, I'm okay with most castings as long as the actor has proven that he's been good in at least a couple of roles, right? Because everybody has bad movies. It might be a bad script, a bad character, a bad thing. But if you see the potential for them to do a charismatic or good performance, then I'm absolutely fine with it. And that's where I don't get the drama about Aaron Taylor Johnson. First of all, it's Craven the Hunter. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, who cares who plays him in the first place? And then you get Aaron Taylor Johnson, who isn't that bad. He was good in Kick-Ass. Like, I don't think anyone could have saved that performance in Age of Ultron. I mean, like, it was just a terrible, terrible version of the character. I don't think it was anything like he could have done with it. And then, the rest of his movies, I think I saw him in Anna Karenina. He was all right in that. I know maybe it's not you guys type of movie or whatever, but he was all right in that. So he's done some good performances. I think he's a decent actor. He's British, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but so he can do accents, and he's a good actor. So what was your issue with it? Let me understand where you're coming from.
First of all, Craven's Last Hunt is not just a small Spider-Man villain, in the sense that he continuously. Craven loves to hunt people. That's what he loves to do. Okay. And he's always he's always the winner. Okay. Spider-Man, he loses to Spider-Man. He's unable to catch him. So when we get to Craven's Last Hunt, which is the story Warren referenced just a few minutes ago, it's a dark story. Absolutely. Here is a man who's now dying of cancer, right? And he wants one last hunt. And that hunt is to stop Spider-Man, to catch him. And also Craven is a lot older. So it's also a little strange to me that he's not at least late 40s, mid 40s. And we went with Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's another thing. Too young. So why are we going to do a Craven story, especially when one of his greatest stories, the most popular story is Craven's Last Hunt. And at this point, Craven is at the end. He's ready to retire. He's a sick man. And also, just like Venom, Morbius, not so much, but Venom is extremely tied, to Spider-Man. Craven, his whole existence at this point, once he encounters Spider-Man, is to hunt him down.
Right.
So what type of film are we going to get? The age is a big problem. And then when I think about what Warren just said, he can't even hold a fake Sokovian accent through a movie. I feel
where's Craven from?
Same region.
Okay.
He's Russian. If I'm remembering correctly, he's Russian. Yeah. So he's Russian. I had to think for a second. He's Russian. So kind of a similar, accent in a way. I don't think he can hold it. I feel that if we would have had a stronger actor in Pietro, in Age of Ultron, the performance would have been more compelling. Yeah, the way that they did necessarily his run style and his speed was not very great. His suit was not very great. But he, with what was given to him on screen, specific lines that he's supposed to make me to feel these emotions when he's talking about how, he has a little picture and he pulls it out and he looks at it every day. I didn't buy it. Okay. Any feeling for this version of Quicksilver that I had did not come from him. I never felt an emotional connection to him when he was in this role. All my feelings came for him after his death through Wanda and Hawkeye. Even the moments when I see him earlier and he's going back and forth with Aaron Taylor Johnson is going back and forth with Jeremy Renner. I'm not buying it. And it's Jeremy Renner who's carrying these scenes that I see him in. And I also feel that a lot of his performances, I love Kick-Ass too, the first movie. But to me, Kick-Ass isn't is a good movie. I feel like you could have put in anybody in that movie and it would have been just as good. That movie is not good because of Aaron Taylor Johnson. It lies on the back of Nicolas Cage. Most of that movie does.
Nicolas Cage and the little girl.
Yes. Well, I can't remember her. Is her name Chloe?
Chloe Moritz. Chloe something Moritz.
Yeah. It lays more on the backs of these two characters. When I think about when I originally was talking to people and I was thinking, what movies have I seen him in? What films have I seen him in that I can appreciate and connect to? Okay, I'll give it to you. Godzilla, not my bag, right? But I forgot he was in that movie. Tenet, a movie that I enjoy. I love Christopher Nolan. I forgot he was in Tenet. Okay,
yeah, but he didn't have a big role.
I know, but I know he doesn't have a big role. But he has,
and he was perfectly fine in it.
He has an important role.
He was fine in it.
What I'm trying to express to you, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my ringer off. What I'm trying to express to you is that he plays in roles where he is yeah, that's my ringtone. Oh yeah, I should have known you were going to say something. Whoa. His role, he is forgettable. I forget that he stars in these movies because he's not memorable. He doesn't leave that impression on me when I'm seeing him on screen. And I don't feel that, and I kind of agree with you. We don't necessarily need a Craven solo movie. But if we're going to get one, we should have someone who's a little bit more seasoned of an actor, a little bit older, and that feel like I can feel.
Who? Give me an example. Who would you cast as Craven? Who would I cast as Craven?
Not a lot of people wanted Joe Manganiello, and I don't like that either. That's when I think about who could Craven be.
Joe Manganiello is so bad.
Some people wanted Jason.
Joe Manganiello is not so bad.
Jason Momoa, absolutely do the Russian accent. I'd rather have Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, exactly, because at least he can do the accent.
If we were going to go much older, I could see. I mean, he would have to grow his hair out. He would have to get a beard. But I could see Brad Pitt doing it. I could see.
Oh, come on. See, this is what I'm talking about. What do you mean, Brad Pitt? Why the hell would Brad Pitt Leo DiCaprio
I
for
know. I'm just
Craven
saying.
the Hunter.
I know. You're asking
like,
me.
Come on, you're like, why not
actors.
Daniel
I
Day-Lewis for like fucking,
You're asking my dream. Are you asking my dream casting? Are you asking who I want?
Well, I mean, you could say Brad Pitt
Keanu
or
Reeves
Leonardo DiCaprio for
Keanu Reeves would have been. No, I think
any role.
I mean, like when it comes to Leo, I'm basing it off of him in The Revenant. That's what I'm basing it off. I'm able to believe that he is this mountain man, this rugged man, and I can see that. And I mean, and Brad Pitt looks scruffy, and he's a good actor half the time. But Keanu Reeves would have been a good. He would have had to he would have been very on the skinny side of it. Keanu Reeves would have been good, decent. You know, I'm trying to think of what other actors
you can't do a Russian accent though. Keanu Reeves. And
they probably wouldn't have done it, and they would have dumbed it down. But
I want to see Sinister Six for sure.
And I'm curious about that Sinister Six movie. Like,
so let me respond to some of what you just said there.
I wasn't done. I wasn't done.
Okay.
Like I said, he's forgettable. And then I also don't see him being able to carry a film on his back, even though this is a Sony movie. Yeah. And I feel like Tom Hardy, he's been in these Venom movies, and it's been a disservice to him as an actor. It's hurting his career. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's going in, and I feel like this is more of a win for him. So if this movie flops, it just sucks for me as someone that has read his stories and know who this character is. And then I don't understand why you can't introduce him properly and still have that connection to Spider-Man. Because right now these are MCU adjacent films. So who is going to be the Spider-Man of Sony? Is it going to be Tom Holland, or is it going to be Andrew Garfield? I don't believe it'll be Toby, because at this point, I don't see Toby. Toby's a little bit, I feel like he's too old, but maybe it would be Toby. I feel like I don't necessarily like Andrew as Spider-Man, especially Peter Parker. But I feel that with this, this group of villains that they're creating, he makes the most sense to fit into this world. So maybe in this Craven movie, maybe we'll have this moment with whoever this Spider-Man's going to be. But I don't feel Aaron Taylor Johnson is old enough. I don't feel that he can command the presence that I feel that Craven needs to command. Here is a man who is strong, methodical, takes pride in his hunting. And this is a man who is dying. Okay. He's not. How old is Aaron Taylor Johnson?
How old is 30s.
He's in his 30s, something like that.
I just feel like he's too young.
That's young?
Okay.
Yes, to play Craven. And to play Craven.
All right. Because otherwise I'm going to forget a lot of the points you made. So you can continue.
Yeah, now you know how I
you've
feel.
got a lot.
Now you know how I feel when you do it to me.
I know, we all do it to each other. So, all right, like let's take it step by step. So the first thing that you were talking about is in terms of like the Spider-Verse itself, right? Like you don't think. I've forgotten like most of his points. Like there was something that I wanted to talk to you about like at the time, and I'd remembered it just a moment ago. But so in terms of Aaron Taylor Johnson, in terms of his performance, like in Kick-Ass, and just for an example, I do think he was the fourth best in that movie, but I still think everyone was really, really good. So I think. I think the two that we talked about already, Hit Girl and Big Daddy, they were better. Yeah. I think the guy who Christopher Mintz-Platz or whatever.
Oh yes.
He was fantastic. I think he was really good. And then I would say the next best was Aaron Taylor Johnson. But that's not a bad thing, because those guys were really, really, really good in the movie, and he held up what he needed to hold up, which was being the emotional center of the movie. And I really did feel for him, and I felt, like I wanted him to. I rooted for him in the movie, so I think he can play a compelling central lead. The other issue about like the Spider-Man story that you're talking about him hunting Spider-Man. Now, with Venom, I thought it was going to be absolutely ridiculous to not have Venom with Spider-Man, right? Like the symbiote is supposed to attach itself to Spider-Man. That's how it gets those abilities and then goes to Venom. But for all intents and purposes, that was not the problem I had with the Venom movie. In the end of it, it wasn't that aspect of it didn't actually bother me that much when I watched the movie. There were other things about it that were worse, to be honest, like the villain and his kind of plans and whatever. But actually the symbiote connecting to him, how Venom actually looked, because I wanted that big spider sign, but how he looked was actually fine in the movie for me. So it seems to me that those kind of movies with those Spider-Verse characters can be done without Spider-Man. We'll see how the vampire one goes. What's the vampire one called again? Morbius.
Morbius.
Point, we'll see how that goes to be able to make a decision of how this is going, because people did seem to like that Venom movie, even though a lot of us comic book fans were not that into it. Normies seem to buy into it, so who knows? It could work. So we'll see how the Morbius one goes. But in terms of this, I think they could find a way of him hunting. Maybe he hunts Morbius. Maybe that's his thing. Like he's supposed to hunt Morbius, or he's supposed to hunt something else, and then it leads to a teaser of him then having to hunt Spider-Man. Right, like that could be the thing. Can you tell me a little bit about Warren? Can you, if you know about the character, can you tell me a little bit about like his powers, his abilities, how they're connected to Spider-Man or the Spider-Man universe?
Well, I forgot Mariah Croft, right? Because from the like the asylum, I forgot the place. Ravencroft. She met him. In an expedition, and basically they were developing like basically a super serum in a sense. And he was already a big game hunter. He Ashley pointed out, he would like fight lions, and this guy was like basically Tarzan, and he gets injured like trying to like do something, and she gives him like basically a serum, but the serum, like most serums in the not MCU, Marvel, I'm so used to MCU being said, that it makes him a little bit deranged. In a sense, he becomes obsessive. He starts chasing. He gets very volatile, and it gives him enhanced strength, smell. There's a point in Spider-Man where he got a scent of Spider-Man. So when he was at a dining hall, he's like, "Oh, I smell Peter Parker, or I smell Spider-Man here." So he had to change. So it's like, if you have someone that has your scent now, that makes it even harder to because he could just pick you out of the public. And
right.
His elaborate traps that he has is really good. He's hunted people like Rhino. He's hunted people like there's a villain that Spider-Man had, Vermin.
So for instance, Rhino could be something that he's hunting in New York or something like that. They could set a thing where he's hunting one of Spider-Man's villains as the premise of the movie, right? From what you're telling me, and so he's got super strength. He's agile. He builds traps.
But he was also
do this well.
There's he was. I mean, there's also the story where he is taken, by Norman Osborn, and Norman Osborn is the one who actually enhances his abilities.
That too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but go ahead. That's all I was. That was what I was going to add. Because Warren basically gave you the backstory of everything that you needed, except for about Norman Osborn, and also Craven Like there's specific characters. Like I feel like Venom is absolutely the number one, in my opinion, when it came to making a movie without Spider-Man that made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Right. And that was even though I know you said that wasn't as big of an issue for you, it was a big issue for me. But I felt like I also tried to give this movie as much as I disliked it when I originally saw it, and then I saw it again, I felt like I tried to give it more opportunities, because I knew, oh, well, we're going to get Carnage. So maybe, this time around, we're going to get a different tone of a film. But it still makes absolutely no sense, because now we're going into Venom 2 and we still have no Spider-Man. Okay. I feel like that's going to start to wear off thin. So when you're going to introduce Craven, are you going to show me Norman Osborn? What are you going to show me that shows me that this this guy that worked in the circus, who's always a bit, about honor, and his goal is to be the greatest hunter of all time. And how does he become the greatest hunter? Is by attempting to capture Spider-Man.
Right, exactly. Okay. I get that.
And he's like a top tier Spider-Man villain. He's not just like, he's not Morbius. Morbius is a Spider-Man villain.
I knew Morbius more than I knew Craven, and like, as somebody who's not into Spider-Man, I thought Morbius was the bigger villain, because I've known Morbius for ages, and I didn't know. I've never heard of Craven.
I know saying Venom, a lot of.
I know Green Goblin. I know Carnage. I know the Morbius guy. I know Vulture, and I knew these before the movies. By the way, I'm talking about characters I knew before the movie. Is there any? I knew Vulture was the one who has the thing where he's old, but he gets younger or something like that. And I knew obviously Wilson Fisk, and the guy who was in the wheelchair, who was his who always helped him. So those are the kind of guys who. Sorry,
go ahead, Warren.
Oh no, I said Smite. Alistair Smite.
Smite, exactly. Yeah, so I never saw Craven as a big villain, but maybe he is. I want to ask this before we move on. What do you think of the Spider-Verse that they're building in Sony, and do you want a Sinister Six movie by them?
Warren, you want to go?
Warren.
I feel like Warren has more positive opinions right now, so I'm like, positive. Okay. You can go first.
Just to answer Rhea.
Okay, so I believe that Craven is supposed to tie in with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, from what I've been told. So that's a good thing. So that's confirmed, I believe. It's the Venom thing is the head scratcher still for us. So that's fine. So what we have right now is we have Vulture, Shocker, Scorpion, Mysterio, and now Craven. So we need one more. So because they don't want to use Green Goblin, because Green Goblin is such an important character within the Marvel universe.
They're not going to give him to the MCU either.
Yeah, they're not anytime soon. He's like you want to, because he's even important for the X-Men in a sense too. So that I could see Rhino. So that's your Sinister Six. That's not a bad Sinister Six at all. We got to see this, how Scorpion turns out, how they do the costume and stuff like that. We already saw Shocker, we saw Mysterio, we saw Vulture, and we saw him teased again because I don't think Morbius is gonna be a part of the Sinister Six. That's never happened.
Venom. That doesn't make. I don't think Venom right now makes sense.
But overall, with Aaron Taylor Johnson said, I get to play a character that's really major for Spider-Man. And he's like, okay, I could definitely see this guy being in multiple films.
What about Doc Ock?
Yeah, that's my question.
No, okay, so here's what they're doing. And I don't know if you guys have noticed with the Spider-Man movies since Homecoming. They want to stay away from Doc Ock and the Lizard, and
Doc Ock is gonna be in Spider-Man No Way Home.
No, what I mean is as an actual put him in a movie. I'm not talking about like actual. What I mean by put him in a movie, like not No Way Home. I'm not counting No Way Home. I'm talking about like actual Doc Ock, Tom Holland Doc Ock, not Doc Ock of like what we getting now in No Way Home, which is a time not timey wimey, but like interdimensional multiverse stuff. They want to stay away from Green Goblin because of the Willem Dafoe and his portrayal. They want to stay away from these because they want to show more of the universe. Like they don't want to do what they did with like Joker, how they keep using him, and like that's why I like the Spider-Man movies, is because we're seeing more of his rogues. Like people say Jake Gyllenhaal's just a guy with illusions. That's what Mysterio is, people. Like,
well, yeah, Mysterio is even a stunt coordinator at one point. He's able to build these elaborate sets and it's trick Spider-Man. Yeah. And I like how they made him, this tech, guy in Far From Home, and the way they adapted and changed him into, he is an illusionist, but the type of illusion was just a more modern day illusion. And I thought it worked perfectly. So I agree with you, Warren, on that. So
he used to have those illusion boxes, didn't he? Where he'd throw the box and then it would create some massive illusion, right?
But they just modernized them.
And then they kind of.
I don't know if what they did in the Spider-Man Far From Home actually worked that well, because it seemed like the illusions were physical, but they weren't. But they were. Like it seemed weird that, I could go with it anyway. I just went with it, but it seemed like at one point the illusions weren't there and they weren't physical, but then they are physical. And then I don't know how he did that whole thing where Spider-Man was just going from one illusion to the other. That seemed really bizarre. It didn't seem possible with the technology that he had.
His drones, he had at that point, he had the satellites, he had the glasses, so he was able to open up that ability even more with his drones, because he had that Stark tech, right? So that enhanced it in that way. But I had a point that I wanted to make about something Warren said, and now I'm like, now I don't know where we are.
But what I'm saying is that to just wrap it up, I'm okay with the Craven, because we get to see, because I feel like they're saying, all right, guys, we give you Craven, who's a big guy, and then they're finally gonna I feel like they started with Vulture, because I like Vulture, and then we got Mysterio. Now we're gonna get Craven. So I'm like, okay, so now they have to go to a real Spider-Man villain. What I mean real is like Green Goblin is Spider-Man's villain. Point blank at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I would expect within another 2 years we hear a Green. I heard that Brian, was it the guy that played Breaking Bad? He
Gustavo.
wants to
yeah. What's his name? Right now,
Esposito.
What's his? No, that's not.
Or whatever.
Yes. What is his first name? I just call him Gustavo. Just call him Gustavo. Yeah. Gus.
Yeah.
That's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to be Norman Osborn. So it's like, okay, we're there. I like what they're doing, with the sense that they're building up Tom Holland's rogues, small, piece by piece, smaller. Like we got a taste of Shocker, we got a taste of Tinkerer, we got a taste of we even saw a tease for Scorpion. We're getting these guys teased up small.
Yeah, but they're doing these more grounded versions that won't be able to take on Spider-Man.
I have a question, though. I have a question for you, Warren.
Right.
Yes.
So
okay.
We do.
The question can come, but I just want to say we will have to move on to the next topic.
I know. I just wanted to ask him what are his thoughts, real quick, about Spider-Man No Way Home, really quickly, because we know that there are going to be several villains in No Way Home. Do you really not feel that we might be getting this multiverse type of Sinister Six already? Because we know they're the confirmed villains, and we don't know what else is happening, because now we're hearing other people, more villains might be in this movie. So do you really honestly feel that they're going to save that for Spider-Man 4? Yeah, that's my question. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily believe that's going to happen.
So film elitist wanted to ask me to ask you, how you doing?
Oh gosh, tight. I'm tight. I left work early, so I'm tight. I guess I don't know.
But yeah, I'm just gonna go with the yes. That's it.
All right. So, like, last words on this about the casting. I don't have a big problem with it. I'm probably not even going to watch the movie in cinema, so I don't really care.
See, you don't give a shit.
Piece of shit.
I don't give a shit.
I give a shit.
I want to talk about the important movies now.
Listen to this bullshit. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me if you don't want me to cuss.
So, any last words?
I mean, I think I've said everything. I don't fucking like it. I don't fucking like it, and I don't fucking like it. That's what I'm gonna say. I gave all my points.
When we get a teaser, we'll come back to this point. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cool. Let's go on to a quality DC movie now.
Teaser.
So Joker director Todd Phillips is reportedly signed to co-write the sequel to the Joker. So it's basically on. I mean, that's really all you need to know about this article, which is they're making a Joker 2. Joaquin Phoenix seems happy to do it. Todd Phillips is co-writing. Hopefully he has a good co-writer to write that with him. I guess the thing is, are you excited about it? Where do you want it to? Where do you want to see the movie go if they do have a sequel as well?
I guess it's Taxi Driver Part 2. Is that what we're getting? It's a good movie. It's a great character-driven movie. Like, the first one was good, but like, that wasn't a fucking comic book movie, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Did Joaquin Phoenix act his ass off? Yes. Was it directed well? Yes. But it's also like so dark and creepy that I watched this movie one time, and I don't just watch movies one time. I couldn't do it again. It's okay, like literally.
Well, I watched it several times, and I thought it was really good on rewatch. I thought there's more layers to be gotten out of it. So yes, and I'm gonna take umbrage with what, and I want to hear your full claim. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Joker is very much a Joker movie, and it's and not only is it a Joker, a really great Joker origin. But I think that, you know, you're saying that it's not really like the character, it's more like a Scorsese, like a Taxi Driver kind of drama than it is a comic book movie. I don't agree with that, and I'm gonna give my reasons, but I want to hear you out completely.
No,
I want to hear you out completely. All right. I'll say my.
I like to be on the.
Okay. All right. So
go for it.
Basically, I think that really limits what a comic book movie can be. Essentially, I've read graphic novels that cover different types of storytelling that can be dramatic, that don't have so much action, that can be thrillers. And definitely in terms of the Batman's rogues, and in terms of many of the rogues, I read a really great Lex Luthor Man of Steel comic, which was basically like a business. What? Why was that funny?
I'm just Andre. No, I'm looking at Andre's comment. Sorry, I'm listening to you, but looking at.
No. It's cool. It's cool. But I read a great comic of that, which was basically an industrial espionage comic, which barely had Superman in it. Had Toyman as basically. A former, like he was like a sexual deviant, but he was also a brilliant genius as well. That was really dark, and it was really interesting, and it was a great graphic novel. And I would say all of those characters still represented who they fundamentally are at core. They were just taken in a darker route. And I think that's all that the Joker did. It tried to make Joker's insanity relevant to modern times, right? Like to the modern, issues that have been permeating modern society. I think that is something that comic books have done since their inception. Like you look at when comic books started, it was during World War II. You had them going out fighting, the Nazis and doing so. They were slap bang in the middle of social and political issues. The Joker and many other comics moving forward did very similar things. It tackled the modern kind of social issues, which right at the moment is the deepening gulf between like the haves and the have-nots, and the problems that people are facing on the basis of that. So I thought it was a very, very clever take. But just to say why it's a Joker movie specifically, I think that the character of Arthur Fleck was showing very, very early on signs of that kind of Joker character, of the character that does, one obviously has the manic laugh, but also does those kind of sick, twisted jokes that you don't know if you're supposed to laugh at, like where he punches, well, this wasn't a sick, twisted joke necessarily, but it was certainly a joke where he punches out from, from his day at work. He punches the thing and he says, like, I'm punching out, just little things like that were jokes that you expect the Joker to do. It actually reminded me a little bit of Jack Nicholson's Joker. And it was the very thing that I missed from Heath Ledger's Joker, of him doing those kind of like funny, like little one-liners and stuff like that, where he's saying something dark, twisted and whatever, but ultimately it's kind of just a joke at the same time. And by the end of it, when he was in that interview segment and he was in full Joker regalia, I thought that was one of the best, if not the best, performance of the Joker we've ever seen. And I wanted to see where that Joker could go. And what's intriguing about his Joker is, you're right, like he isn't just some, what we usually see of Joker, which is a genius level criminal. He's actually somebody who's just literally insane and has got somehow by accident got all of these acolytes who probably are now willing to follow him and cause chaos in Gotham. So I really want to see how that plays out. And I would love, of course, for him to face Robert Pattinson with him being a more low-tech Batman and see how that plays out. So I think he very much was the Joker, especially by the end of the movie. So in that sense, it's a Joker movie. So for those reasons, if you want me to remind you a little bit point by point the points I made so that you can respond to it in case you've forgotten anything, I can tell you like, point by point what I said.
Okay. I'm not saying it's not a Joker movie due to the lack of action sequences. Okay. That has nothing, when I'm talking about a comic book movie, it has nothing to do with that. There is just specific things. And maybe the Joker that I know, he doesn't have this laughter based off the fact that he has a actual condition that causes him to laugh nervously. Okay. Right. That's my first thing. And then a lot of the things, and I know that his backstory is not really known. And then we take one little bitty piece of something that was said, and then they blow that up, because I actually remember reading exactly what the comic book author was saying when he's talking about the multiple choice. Again, he's saying all of these things. I mean, yeah, when it came to the film, he was not a reliable narrator. I feel like that was the most Joker thing about the movie, except for the fact that he puts on makeup at the end of the movie, and he dances for a minute. I feel like when I'm thinking about when I'm going to see the Joker on screen, he also is slightly insane, yes, but his personality always seems bigger than life to me. And I felt like this Arthur Fleck just wasn't, he didn't have just the natural things that I would expect from the Joker to have.
Okay, give me some examples.
he is, I feel like anytime, most of the Joker that I know is an agent of chaos. He's someone that, you know, doesn't, he likes for things to be out of order. He thrives on, you know, attempting to show off exactly how crazy he can truly be. And I feel like Arthur Fleck, you know, in this film, it was more of a struggle for him as a character. I felt like, yes, this is a man who's absolutely on the brink of losing everything, right? And it was a sad story. And yeah, I get that. But to me, he is not the Joker. Maybe Joker 2, I will see something that makes me feel like I'm watching him as a Joker. But when I'm looking at this movie, I feel, yes, well acted, great character, but he is not portraying certain things that I feel are more like, we see him progressively become more deranged, but you know, the clown stuff and the gun, I don't feel like the Joker, even in the beginning, would have, you know, dropped a gun and accidentally at a hospital with children. I just don't see that. I feel,
well, he wasn't the Joker by then. But yes. Yes, continue. Sorry. I just wanted to.
These are just saying, I'm just saying some of these basic things should have already lied within him. Okay. Because yes, you can evolve and become, you know, this villain who's out here killing people, but some of these things should already kind of be part of who this character is, the essence of the character. And I don't get that from Arthur Fleck, is all I'm saying. Like, I don't, when I'm seeing him in this movie, you know, the relationship with a girl, I don't even see Joker being that way, because he was always more focused on Batman, and we see child Batman in the movie, or even his situation with Harley Quinn. He is very confident in these situations, and we find out through this whole movie that this is a fake relationship. He never had a true conversation with her, and he never had a relationship with her. To me, that is not who the Joker is. Okay. Yes, he's slightly deranged. He's an agent of chaos, but he's also very confident within himself. And we don't see any inkling of any of that throughout the movie, in my opinion. So these are just the basic elements for me that I don't have any connection with Arthur Fleck and the Joker. Do I think it's a great movie? Yeah. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. But to me, that's not who the Joker is.
And I think I want to piggyback off something you said, because I just unpack like a lot of what you said, because there is some things I agree with you on. I don't think this guy was villainous enough. That's one thing, and I think that's probably some of what you're intimating towards. He seemed more like an anti-hero. He seemed like he only killed people or harmed people who had done something to him, right? So, directly to him. And it was like more of a kind of revenge thing than it was like, hey, I'm the Joker. I'll come in here and I'll just be chaos incarnate, and you never know what I'm going to do. Like, one of the scenes I loved was when he killed that guy. He killed the guy who gave him the gun. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the little midget, right? Like, sorry, I shouldn't say midget. It's small person. I'm not sure what they say now.
The little guy. The little guy. I'm sad you said a little guy. That's so bad.
Yeah. Well,
little
person. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or dwarf. I think they even call them.
I don't think
which always strikes me as weird.
I don't know. Yeah. Dude. Like, I don't know.
I can't keep up with the political correctness.
I'll cancel myself every day.
But yeah, I love that scene up until the point he says, I'm not going to kill you because you haven't done anything to me. I was like, dude, I'm loving this scene, because I thought it was so funny that the Joker would actually do a joke on him. Right, where he's like, it seems like he's going to kill him, but he's like, no, because I thought it would have been so much cooler if he said, I'm not going to kill you because you're funny or something, just because,
even like mess with him where he thought he wasn't going to kill him and he kills him. like something. I remember that moment.
I
feel
like
the
that he didn't kill
strongest
him,
moment
but
was when he killed his mother. That was like, even though she did all these crazy things, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that was the moment where I was like, okay, in that moment, I will tell you, in little bitty moments, I felt like I got hints of it. When he killed his mother, obviously when he's dancing around and having a good time, at that point.
The look on the cops' faces when he's dancing around always cracks me up.
I really enjoyed seeing
They sold that so well.
I was
anyway,
like, I need more of that. No, I was actually going to let you finish. That was the only two things that I wanted to add because it was in my head. Like, more things come to me as I'm talking. So
yeah, I can see where people are coming from, and I want Warren to jump in here quickly.
Yes.
But like, I could see where you're coming from with your criticism, but the only thing is, I'll say by the end, when he shoots the guy and when he kills that psychiatrist who's asking him questions, and he says, "You don't get the joke." I don't buy into this whole thing of him being an unreliable narrator. I think the whole thing was true. That's the way I like to see the story. I think it's bullshit. Like, if it's like an unreliable narrator and none of that happened. To me, that completely
didn't Todd Phillips say that though?
Todd Phillips can say whatever he wants. I mean, it's stupid. And if there's going to be a sequel, hopefully they carry it on from there. And it was, he was reliable and he's doing these things. But otherwise, what the hell's the fucking point of the movie?
What if everything after the death of his mother doesn't happen? How would you feel? Curious before you move on.
Well, I think that's bullshit.
I feel like that's where the real stuff ends. And everything else might possibly be things that didn't actually happen. I feel like him killing his mother is probably what led him to the current situation that he's in. And then while he's there, he's thinking of all these things that he wanted to do, could have done, because we see him have these moments where he's thinking of things and they're not happening, right? So that's why I believe that after he kills his mother, I feel that nothing from that point on actually happened.
You know what I would have loved to see, but and I'll come back to your point, but I would have loved to see not him brutally kill the girl, because I understand, like, in this world, you don't want to give crazy people some excuse to do bad things, even though I don't think films make people do things. But anyway, I didn't want to see him brutally kill that the woman he was dating or anything. But I would have loved to see, right at the end when it's like the TV show. It's like you see the TV show's been interrupted, right? And you see that people are watching like the various things that are happening. I would have loved if it panned out and you saw the woman watching the TV and she just has a massive Joker smile on her face, right? So you know that he's done something. You don't know how he's done it, but she's just got like a Joker face. Not like like the classic kind of like thing.
Yeah,
I would have loved that. And you don't know like what that's about. If she dead, is she like just you don't know what the thing is. But anyway, in terms of what you were talking about, like to me oh, well, Warren, you haven't spoken, have you? Sorry, Warren. Go on.
I just run my mouth too much.
No, I forgot.
I'm gonna be truthful. I have not seen this movie, and I don't care to see it. No offense. It's not that I don't like watching. It's just the one when I found out that he didn't fall into a vat or anything. I was like, I'm not watching this movie. I'm sorry. Every Joker movie had like a vat or something. Like it's like that's not Joker.
No, it didn't. The Dark Knight didn't.
Dark Knight doesn't have a vat.
Doesn't have a vat, but his face was messed up, and I didn't mind that Joker.
Yeah,
I mean,
he does has a reason for a smile. Go on, Ashley.
Right. So
I was just gonna go ahead, Warren.
But on the topic of this, it's like, again, first of all, this is not even in the main DC universe. So like, why does this even matter? I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but in that sense, it's like this is not even a part of the DC. This is because remember, this is outside of it. So like, Like, why are we getting a second movie if it's not connecting to anything? Logically, I don't see that making sense right there. Not saying I don't think the movie did good because it did a billion, right? But like,
yeah. And Warren, I mean, I'm totally there with you because just a very quick point, Ashley. If DC, if the Batman is successful and DC don't force, I mean this, they need to put their foot down and force Todd Phillips and Matt Reeves to sit down and make a Joker versus fucking Batman movie. If the Batman is successful, I don't care because it's in the exact same fucking tone, right? Yes. They look like so similar, and Joaquin Phoenix, you can feel that he could be a great Joker, right? I don't care how they do it. I know it was in the 80s and all of that shit. I don't care. I want to see him just come. You just throw him in there as the Joker. You've already given his origin. Just throw him in there as the Joker against Patterson.
I mean, because the Joker is what, 20 years older than Batman? How much older?
Sometimes he's quite a bit older. Sometimes think about Jack Nicholson and Keaton.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
I'm just like, traditionally, isn't he usually like around like 25, just roughly, if we're just like making a ballpark number of years. I always thought that he was like 20, 25 years older, you know? I agree exactly with what you're saying. That's the point that I was going to make. I know that these are two different time periods, but they're very similar in tone, basically what you're saying. And if, if the Batman is just as successful, and if the Joker 2 is successful, I feel like that they might possibly be thinking about it. And if they're not, then that speaks to the issues of WB. Because here you have a great opportunity to possibly have two different universes. You can have this more, family oriented kind of route that they're kind of going with Aquaman and Wonder Woman and these characters. And we know that Keaton is kind of going to be the Batman in the DCEU. And over here, you can tell, maybe stories that are a little bit more grown up. So you could have two separate audiences that you're marketing content to, and just instead of just families. So I agree with you. If they don't capitalize on these moments, then, I mean, once again, that's a fail for them, because I feel exactly like you do that Pattinson and Joaquin would mesh very well in the same universe, because Robert Pattinson is a great actor. And Joaquin is too. So the two of them acting the opposite of one another would be great. Like, I cannot wait to see the Batman in it, and I'm gonna see Joker too. But like, I feel like you can't have Joker separate for too long without Batman, right?
Yeah, because, and I mean, it could be Batman 3. I mean, I don't mind it being Batman 3.
Yeah, it could be. But
tease it at the end of the second one,
the two of them have to have this discourse, because I feel just as strongly about Batman being separated from the Joker that I do Craven and Spider-Man, because they and even the Joker even more than Craven, because the Joker, what is his single most obsession in life, right, is Batman, and we have to see these two characters together. We have to. The Joker doesn't exist without Batman.
Make it happen, Ashley.
Yeah.
Hey.
And to be honest, I like, as much as I want to see this Joker too, the further they go with this universe of the Joker just being isolated, the harder it's going to become to link them, in a logical kind of way. So I would actually prefer, honestly, if these guys would just take another villain, like build up some villains, right? Like in separate movies, like, you could do a Heart of Ice movie, like with the Professor Freeze or whatever, Mr. Freeze or something, like a Mr. Freeze in this kind of universe, or
I think they could build up Harvey Dent, honestly.
I
or
think that
Harvey Dent, or something
isn't
like
the
that.
Penguin kind of in the Batman? Isn't
The
he
Penguin's
kind of
already in.
is being?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in there, but he's not the main villain here.
Yeah.
And I
The one
wonder
I would
if they're going to
personally choose
build
is
him up
Scarecrow.
more. You think that
I would
they'll
choose a
revisit that at this point?
Yeah, well, I just think it lends itself to the universe that that Todd Phillips is, like the dark universe. I would say that Scarecrow lends himself really, really well to that. And you could do villains outside of like the Batman universe as well. But like doing a Joker 2, again, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to see what would happen, but I just hope they don't ruin it, what they've got, because what they've got at the end is perfect to just set up. Okay, Batman 3, Joker versus Batman. Go on.
Can I ask you a question? Because you're the DC guy here. Is there any specific elements after you've seen the first Joker that you would like to see in the second film? I know it's like, what would you like to see? Or is there anything that you would really want to see, or just an idea of how you think that this Joker 2 movie could possibly go?
Well, I think the best route would be to there's a comic book that is like a graphic novel called The Joker, right? Like, and I thought that's what this film, the first one, was going to be adapting, but it didn't.
When was that written? When did that come out? Because someone sent me
The Joker.
That one, the novel, the graphic novel you're talking about.
Ryan Azzarello, 2000s, like 2005, 2006, something like that. And that's just the Joker is released from prison, and he just goes out, like he's got his gang, and he goes out and he just causes chaos. The only difference I would say is that Batman is after him in that graphic novel, whereas I would say, like, maybe don't do that in this version. You could just have him like essentially establishing himself as the crime boss of Gotham, right? Like that would be he's somehow released from or escapes from the Arkham Asylum, and he's just out there, with all of these acolytes, like taking down the gangs and stuff like that, and becoming the clown prince of crime, essentially. I think that would work. And I would try and skip it along. I don't care. Like, I swear, I would just do it. Like, it would just be set in 2000. Whenever the Patterson thing is set, I'd just set it then.
Because at first, they were. I'm sorry. That they were saying that Pattinson was in the 90s, and now it's in the 2000s, right? Is it current time or early 2000s? Because if it's early 2000s, I can't remember what year was the Joker film exactly supposed to be. I know it's the 80s, but it did give us a specific year. I cannot remember what that specific year was. If it did,
it didn't really give a specific time period. You just assumed
there was a film.
It was the 80s.
No, it was based off the films that
were
playing at the time. I remember it, but I can't remember.
I only remember the Charlie Chaplin film playing in it, but I don't remember any other films like specifically.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it's,
but just given like,
how old do we say he is? If we say we could say he's younger. If he's 30 and say it's 83 or 1980, and then the film in the Batman is set in 2005, it could still work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it just takes a little bit of foresight from Warner Brothers, but like, I don't know if they're going to just go in there and like just say, hey, dude, just take out, if you've got any iPhones or anything like that, just take it out. And then we can say it's set like in the 2000s, it doesn't make a difference. It won't make a difference to you or not. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. But, in the end of the day, like, I don't really care, in a sense. you could just say it's a multiverse thing, right? Like this is the Joker in that universe, and he's the Joker in this universe as well. I don't care how they do it; they should just do it.
You don't care if it doesn't need to make sense, guys. Nerdman is just saying it could not make absolutely no sense, is what you're telling me. As long as they meet up.
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it really needs to make that much sense. I mean, I just remember the Batman like animated shows where, you know, it seemed like it was set in the 50s, but it was actually now, right? Like it was modern day, but like all the cars and the architecture all looked like it was from the 50s. Maybe they could just explain Gotham away like that. Like that Gotham was just like, I don't know.
You know, when you go into the live action, it's a little different, right?
True.
So, and the only way to make it make sense that they're affected by the multiverse is if then they're part of the DCU. Because, you know,
well, maybe Flashpoint might hint something.
Have affect them. Maybe it does. But then there's DCU films affecting the Batman and the Joker film that's not supposed to have any connection to those films. So then that seems a little...
I thought they were still part of the multiverse. I thought that the Joker and the Batman were part of the multiverse.
No, not from everything that I know. They're not.
No, they're their own separate. They're their own separate stories.
Elseworld, there's no connection.
There's no connection. That's why I don't get a point of a Joker too if there's no connection. Like, is it because you made $1 billion? So that's why, like, oh, let's ride this coattail.
Yeah.
That's all I mean, no disrespect. I get it. You're a business and it worked because you finally used a Batman property without Batman to garner $1 billion. That's all. That's good in the eye of Warner Brothers, right? If you think about it.
I mean, yeah. Because
so
they need all those $1 billion films that they can get. I believe Pattinson Batman will make $1 billion.
All right, so I'm gonna just like read through a few of these, like just before, like, and we can say our last words on this before we move on. So I agree with Ashley here. This is another take on the Joker, but it's an Arthur movie. Okay.
Oh wow.
Matthew, what does it say? You guys should do a stream reviewing the entire R. Kelly Trapped in the Closet series. I've been wanting to do that for so long. Arthur is
I'll do it.
Yeah, Arthur is a schizophrenic. That's a really complicated series when you think about it. Arthur is a schizophrenic, so some things could have been made up in his head. I was even thinking of this as possible scenario back when this movie came out. The only problem with that, to me, Andrea, is like, I don't see how it impacts the movie. Like, what does it do apart from say the movie didn't happen? Like, how is that profound or interesting in any way if this all just happened in his head? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still listening. I just had to turn my camera off for a second.
No. Do you know, but Warren hasn't seen it.
I mean, I think that they're going to do that. Like, I feel really like after he killed, after the death of his mother, but however, at the end, I really do believe that he killed the doctor. But everything in between, after the mother and to the point before the doctor, I feel like that did not happen. And then that's going to go more into, in this film, this time around, is going to delve more into his psyche and more into, you know, him being completely unhinged and insane. Possibly he's going to be able to break free. And then all those people that were supporting, and then he's actually then going to be able to define.
Yeah, but those people weren't real.
I'm not talking about, that's why I stopped. I'm talking about he's actually going to find people who are like-minded and who want to follow him, because I feel like he's going to come out of the mental hospital feeling rejuvenated and a whole, and have more confidence this time around. I'm hoping he'll be a lot more like the Joker. And that from there, he's going to find people that are on board with, how he thinks and what he believes, just based off of how he's going to carry himself this time around. Because now I feel like he's going to be comfortable in his own skin. Now he let go of that hurt and that pain with his mother, right? And even he's now at this point where he tried to reach out for help from these doctors, and nobody was really giving him that help. So now at the end of the film, the person who was meant to help him, who he doesn't have faith in and doesn't believe in, he feels like he's got to take that back for himself. And I feel that moving forward, he's going to have that confidence, and he's going to be able to get people to follow him. And I think that might move pretty quickly in the second film, but that's what I think will happen.
That's interesting, but you're saying you don't think any of the stuff after he killed his mum was even real. It was all in his head.
Yeah,
and that's what they're gonna. So all of the riots that he caused, everything, none of that was real.
Yeah, I don't believe
that's
it's real.
Interesting. That's really interesting because he
has these sense of grandeur. You think about the things that he's done in this movie where things didn't really happen. And these were the things that elevated him. These were also things that elevated him, made him look good. A relationship, what was Robert Downey Jr.'s character? I said Robert Downey Jr. I've got Robert Downey Jr. in my head all the time.
Robert De Niro.
What was Robert De Niro's character's name?
Oh, fuck knows.
That moment where he feels like he's speaking through him through the TV. All of these fake moments. Yes, I feel like that's showing me that, yes, he has these moments where he's in his own la la land, his own dream world, and he's envisioning all these things that are happening, and they're not. And that's why I feel like those big moments where he kills him, where he's the hero and he's got all these people backing him in those moments, that's why I don't believe that it happened. Because we've seen those moments where he was.
But you're right. But then you'd be absolutely right, and so would Andrea here. I don't see this version of the Joker having any correlation with Robert Pattinson movie going forward. It would make sense to use this Joker for Batman. It wouldn't make sense to use this Joker for Batman. I would agree with that. No, but I would agree if what you're saying is true, because if this is all in his head, that he's got all of these followers, that's the thing that's interesting about this Joker. This Joker isn't a criminal mastermind. He's just stumbled into this army of anarchy that he can kind of control, and that he's become this kind of symbol of chaos for. And to have that as the Joker versus versus Pattinson, that for me would be a fascinating dynamic. A Joker who's literally got an armed citizenry, so for instance, he could come back and he would, from Arkham after all of these years, and start that anarchic rise again, and people remember who he was, and maybe he's become like a kind of a mythic, like kind of mythic figure in Gotham. And when he actually gets not released necessarily, but he's, he comes out of the Arkham Asylum, and maybe Gotham once again is like in a situation where like the poor are feeling really downtrodden and really there's no jobs, and the city's politicians are corrupt and everything like that's happening, and he comes out at just the right time and raises this chaotic kind of force around him again. I think that would be fascinating to do. But if none of that was real, then I don't know how you'd get to that point.
I honestly don't believe it's real. From what I've seen, what Todd Phillips is kind of alluded to, I don't necessarily believe it happened. Now, that's just how I see it. Just from what I've been shown on screen, then what the director combined with what Todd Phillips has said. That's why these two things together make me believe, no, this did not happen.
Okay. So this Joker movie should have I it's an interesting point, and I think that would make an interesting series of movies, but I don't see how you could connect that to Patterson's universe. That's the only problem. This Joker movie should have its own standalone series. Arthur Joker just does have any chemistry to go off to connect with Patterson. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at the worlds that they live in, and it's Patterson and fucking Joaquin Phoenix. I couldn't think of a better coupling of actors to play as Joker and Batman.
Even the feel of the Batman trailer, fits, into his world to me. I remember thinking, oh, maybe they'll do this, and then I was, with his Joker after I saw the Batman trailer. No, he doesn't make sense in the DCEU. He doesn't make sense there. Absolutely. But within the Batman and in this other else world, he fits very well with Pattinson.
If doing Joker 2,
I'm curious of why Andrea thinks. Why?
Yeah, me too. Me too. If doing Joker 2, they could cameo in Batman towards the end of the film to give a preview of bringing Batman into the Joker universe. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. I wouldn't mind seeing Joker 2 movie start its chaos and for something to bring Batman in against Joker Arthur Fleck, since Arthur went to go see a young Bruce Wayne. Say that again? I wouldn't mind seeing. No, I'm talking to myself. Joker 2 movie starts its chaos, and for something to bring Batman in against Joker, that's not going to happen. That definitely isn't going to happen. So to bring Batman against Joker, since Arthur went to go see the young Bruce Wayne, yeah, I don't see that happening. All right, so guys, do you have anything else to say about the Joker 2?
I'm gonna do it Ashley here. I don't care. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding.
So great.
I'm kidding. No. See, I just wish they had a blueprint, because this leaves so many questions in the air. That's why I'm confused as to where to go with as someone who's not entrenched into the DCU. I want them to succeed, and I don't know what they could do. So many things with this, so it's just a head scratcher for me. I don't think bad of it. I don't think good of it. I just don't know what is gonna become of it.
All right. So now to go on.
Here we go. Afro. Superman. Here we go.
Diversity.
Yeah, I've got some shit to say about this, but you were gonna say something. I was gonna let you.
I was just going to say that I hope that my basic point that when it comes to Joker 2, that hopefully they're not going to go in the opposite direction and just try to make this cash cow film where it's about making, capitalizing on the success of the first one. Obviously that's part of it because it's a moneymaker. But I still hope it's a good story. It's a good script. I don't want a Joker 2 movie and have more more action in some of these theatrics and lose some of those character driven moments that I did enjoy in Joker, because it's a great movie. And like I said, why did I not watch it again? Because it's such a heavy film, and I believed these portrayals on screen as I was going through these beats, and I was feeling a lot of that anxiety and a lot of that pain that Arthur Fleck was feeling. But to me, no, it's not a Joker movie in the traditional sense, and in the way
we should finish off this debate quickly, but go on.
That's all. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, yeah, no, I'll say this then. I didn't quite. this is really, this is just subjective, but I didn't find it that heavy. I didn't take it like it was like really sad for me or anything like that. I just watched it and kind of was thoroughly kind of entertained by it as a Joker movie. I really like when they do those things with DC characters, but like they do it more with Batman, where they do, flip these stories on their heads and like explore real world themes and real world issues with these kind of archetypical like characters, like you've got the Joker here. What is he, and how would the Joker kind of look in our particular world, and what in our world could set him off to becoming the Joker? And I think they successfully achieved that. Again, that final scene, I mean, here's a hot take. That final scene of him as the Joker, for me, was probably my favorite performance of the Joker, even above Heath Ledger. Just the little bit, and I'm not saying he's better than Heath Ledger. Just before I saw that groan, that like eye roll. I'm not saying he's better than Joker, but what it did for me is it made me like thirst for more. I wanted to see more of this Joker, where he would go. I can't say he's a better Joker than Heath Ledger, obviously, for obvious reasons. He was there for like 10 minutes, but it was so terrifying. The look of intensity in his eyes, and, when he did that laugh and all of those kind of things. And even the charisma of the way he walked in. Oh, yeah. That for me was pure fucking Joker. And I just want to see him do that for a whole film before I can kind of decide.
5 minutes of Joker, it does not make a Joker movie, in my opinion. But
I see what you're saying.
But I like all, but the end was chilling. And when I say it's heavy, it's just like I was able to understand, and that's just like kind of how sometimes, like if I'm fully invested in these characters that I'm seeing, and then I start to be like, oh, I feel for you, Arthur. Yeah. Like I really, I know that he's, not necessarily good, but here I am rooting for you in all of these, in all these situations, with your mother, with your coworkers, with you losing your job. I was rooting for him throughout this whole movie. I was. And I guess that when I saw it continuously, saw him fail, that's when I mean that it's heavy. It's something that can sit with you, and it does get into mental health issues and very real life things, and it's a good movie. But that's why I was able to emotionally connect with it, and it was.
Let me ask one more question to you.
It was tough, but it was good.
Let me ask one more question to you. Did you feel when he killed that? Because each one of his killings seemed to me to get less and less justifiable, right?
Yeah.
So the first killing was the most justifiable, right? When he killed those guys who were beating on him. That was pretty much self-defense until he kind of executed the guy at the end of it. Yeah. The second killing, it was like, was that really justified? Not really. I mean, like the guy did some horrible shit to him, but like there was other ways of dealing with it. So that wasn't necessarily justified. But again, he was killing someone who did something bad. He got him fired essentially, and didn't like stick up for him. But the Murray killing, that's what his name was, Murray. By the way, who was the Robert Downey Jr. I was about to say the same one.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro, who was Robert De Niro. I thought that killing at the end, and this is why I do see it as a Joker movie. I think Robert De Niro was in the right. What he was saying to Arthur Fleck was made some good points about society and all of these kind of things. But what he told him about like personal responsibility and the sob story that he was inventing for himself, I thought that he was saying the right things. And like the way that Arthur had perceived him as this bad guy, as this terrible guy who was making fun of him, not really. He'd given him the opportunity to come here, and if he was talented enough, if he had a comic voice, he could have come there and blew people away. If not in that sense, but like not in shooting them sense, but like, you know. So he gave him the opportunity to come up there and actually perform. Yeah, he probably did it for some cynical reasons. He wanted to laugh at him a little bit, but he gave him that platform, right? And he just wouldn't take the opportunity. He'd gotten so far into feeling he was a victim that he couldn't, even take the opportunity that was presented before him. So I kind of read it like that was an unjustified killing. And then everything after that, where he kills the psychiatrist, which I see as really happening. I think
I agree with that.
That is, you know, he's fully gone over into just being this kind of it's not traditional Joker by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a shade of Joker, like a Joker that might exist in our world, or a Joker that potentially could exist in our world, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, I see everything. I mean, with what you're saying, I agree. Like, we see him as he's killed these people, and you do see that each time it was there was no justification. Like, after the first time, I really don't see much, even with his coworker. Yeah, he gave you a gun, but you know, you chose to keep the gun, you chose to take it into your job, and because you did that and you dropped the gun, that is on you. And I think that that's part of, just when you're talking about him, he needs to take responsibility. He doesn't, where he feels like he's, you know, been in that victim place for so long that he feels like everybody is victimizing him. I feel like throughout the whole movie, you know, and that goes to your basic point, you know, when those guys are fighting him, that's the only part, you know, that kind of, you know, I'm like, okay,
it's excusable.
But after that, even your mother treated you horribly, you know, but to kill her, there's no justification to me. In moving after the first one, I feel like there's no justification, but in his mind, each time the issues become even smaller and smaller and smaller. So, you know, we'll see if it really happened or if it didn't.
No, that's true. And the reason I said that is because I feel like people miss that point. I think they feel that him killing Murray, like, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and they seem to think that him killing Murray was justified, not justified, like justified.
Yeah.
Justified in the sense of that, Murray was a bad guy. I think the film was presenting Murray as just a normal guy, a guy who, he's flawed and he's not perfect, but he's a human being, and he does, you know, have like this kind of he's basically a human being who has a kind of conscience and, you know, has a sense of right and wrong, and he's actually telling Arthur, like, we get it, you've gone through hard times, but there's this other side to, you've got like a personal responsibility for your behavior as well, right? And anyway, I think people miss that point. So,
and I wanted to say one more thing about Murray, right quick, because you just made me think of something, and then I promise I will say nothing else about this.
No, I won't either.
Go to the point, if, you know, these things did possibly happen, right? And I still don't believe they did. Just going off your point, if it's like, if that does happen and we get to see how it's really plays out, right? That maybe in those moments, Murray is just, you know, talking to him and he's trying to reason with him and he's joking with him. And you do see Murray kind of come off as an asshole, but that might just be how the Joker interpreted it. And we might actually see in the second film, if this happens, exactly what Murray's demeanor was. Because I feel like he was being forceful with him, but I felt like at times it did make him look like the bad guy, and that might be possibly just how the Joker perceived it, and it was from his point of view. And then in the second film, if these things happen, we might actually get to see it from Murray and everyone else in the audience and everyone else is there, that maybe he was trying to give you advice and you didn't want to take it. And he wasn't really an asshole to you because he, like you said, he brought you on the show. So that's just a small point. That's it.
See, here we go. Like, this is somebody Murray made fun of Arthur, though. So it's.
But I wonder if that's only how, because that's through Joker's eyes. If this really happened, we might, it might have played out differently. Because, even people, just basic things in life, you can perceive things differently than another person, right? And you might, and that's outside of mental health issues. So imagine if you're someone who, who sees things that don't really happen, who interprets things, and you hear things that come out that people don't actually say. I could see that these aren't the things that what Murray actually said. Murray is a late night show host. His job is to rip on his guests and the people in the audience. So the fact that you as a comedian kind of don't get that he's also kind of, maybe taking the piss out of you and he's not being serious. As a comedian, you should be able to get that. And I think that, Arthur Fleck is, absolutely gone at this point too.
Right, exactly. And that's the whole point of, the thing. And I'll leave it at that because you made a really valid point, which is that he's a comedian. So of course he's going to make fun of people. See, people send him a clip in his job is to find things to amuse people. And so he saw this comedian that was bombing on stage in a really amusing way. He puts it on TV. How's he supposed to know he's mentally ill and has all of these problems and stuff like that? Yeah, we should be more sensitive to those things in society. And I know that the film is saying that, but at the same time, I think the film is got that.
But I think that they also missed the mark there, because if you're a true comedian, I don't really see that situation necessarily bothering you to that extreme, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Because you understand the art of a joke. You understand the art of a roast. You understand the art of stand-up. And to me, like, that's why kind of it plays more into his mental stability more so than the opposite end. Because I feel like if he was, that he should be able to just notice, oh yeah, I bombed and he's making fun of me, but this is also publicity for me and I'm a comedian,
Right,
and
exactly.
He's
also given an opportunity to even go on the television show after, which even...
Yeah,
but anyway, we need to move on. No,
I'm going down that rabbit hole. Here I go. Sorry, I'm done. I said I won't say anything else.
No, it's good. We might be able to have a quick little recap of it when we go through some of these comments just after. But so on to our Black Superman, to Tanishi Coates. Black Panther has opened up on the expectations fans have for his Superman movie, expressing a desire to deliver something that folks feel is worthy. So he was interviewed recently, and he was asked about if he had any concerns about the preconceived notions that fans have of a Black Superman. So I was kind of really interested in getting what your opinions are of what he says here, and does he alleviate some of your fears in them pursuing a Black Superman? And we could talk about that in general. But so it says, nothing I can say, this is Tanishi Coates, of course, nothing I can say would be helpful here. Absolutely nothing. Nothing I can say will do anything to improve how this film is ultimately received. I got a big thing. I want people to have their own experience with the art. You can tell me to stop at any point if you want to respond to something, by the way. So I got a big thing, and I want people to have their own experience with the art, and I don't want to step on it. I don't want them to hear me. I don't want them to see me. I want them to see what we ultimately produce. We live in an era where people, because you have social media and can share so much, the instinct when you're creating is to let fans in on the process, to let them see where you're going. I do worry about doing injustice to the art. I just worry that you are, however, unintentionally seeding ideas in people's head. I just worry that you are, however, unintentionally seeding ideas in people's head. He repeated himself again. You know, this is funny that this speech that Hollywood people have is so weird, where they say absolutely nothing. It
I know,
almost
but
doesn't make sense.
they did say a bunch of shit, but they're saying nothing.
You're right,
Sorry.
exactly. Yeah, no, it's a weird art. I don't know if it's like a PR thing they train them to do.
No, it kind of
because they
goes
don't want to give spoilers.
to the arrogance of their nature. Sometimes I feel.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So now look, there's a point where you have trailers and things where I'm gonna have to talk about it. But if it were up to me, I wouldn't say anything ever until it had been out and seen and consumed and all of that. I don't want to get in the way. I want Superman to have his chance. I really want him to live. I want him to be greeted. I don't want me and whatever baggage the narrative of me has to overshadow that. As much as possible, I really would like to recede and hopefully make something that folks feel is worthy. I think the only thing, just to start this off, the only thing that is of any content in anything he said here is that last sentence. I'm going to read just this last sentence, this last paragraph that they wrote, just to remind us of what he's actually doing in this film. So tackling a character like Superman is enough responsibility as it is, but crafting a story about a black Kal-El, well, that's a lot of added pressure and comes with a lot of baggage. Unfortunately, a lot of fans out there will be unhappy that Warner Brothers has dared change the hero's skin color and will inevitably see so-called boycotts, complaints, and attacks on social media and YouTube nearer the movie's release. So I want to unpack like those last two, like the last paragraph and the last thing he said. I think I'll go with the last paragraph first because it's kind of like interesting here. So unfortunately, a lot of fans out there will be unhappy that Warner Brothers dare changed his skin color and will inevitably see so-called boycotts, complaints, and attacks on social media. Now, you as a superhero fan, I don't think you like the idea of him being race bent, right? You're muted. You're muted.
Because no.
No, okay.
I don't like the idea of race bending.
Would you boycott this movie because of that?
No, I don't give a shit enough about this movie to boycott the movie.
Right, exactly.
I think that boycotting a film would have to be some extreme issue that I feel so closely connected to. Like, I'm gonna watch this movie because I need to see it. But I'm not. I kind of told you. I'm not big on
Will you go in with an open mind?
I will give it the chance, but why? But I don't understand. And the biggest issue is, I don't know. What I don't like is, a black Superman in the sense that it's not necessarily trying to be authentic. It's, let me hop on a trend. Let me try to capitalize off of,
the brand,
off the brand, and try to match the cultural phenomenon of Black Panther. And like I said, there's so many other characters that they could have gone with. A whole different version of Superman they could have went with as well. So I don't understand, kind of like when we're talking about this, because we talked about Black people living on farms. Why is Clark Kent Black? Are you going to completely change the fact that he grew up in a small town because, maybe the most of the audience cannot identify with a Black person who grows up in the country? We do exist, but a lot of people can't connect to that. They see oh, usually we're in these urban areas. So then how are you going to tell a story about Superman, you know, who grew up in this, as Clark Kent, who grew up in this very, you know, small town in Kansas and on this farm with his family, and then he eventually moves to a city, and how that changes him, and how that helps develop and strengthen him as Superman even more. To me, I don't get it. And I don't understand why they're making this movie. You know,
right? And
at all.
You know, I want to touch on a couple of things.
And poor Henry Cavill.
Yeah, poor Henry Cavill. I don't really care about Henry Cavill, to be honest. I care more about Superman than I do Henry Cavill. Like, fair enough. I wouldn't mind them rebooting him, but oh, you like Henry Cavill like that, yeah?
I'm saying no. The MCU will take him. Is what I no. I don't like him like that. I'm saying come on over to the MCU. That's what I'm saying. No, I don't like him. No.
All right. Here's my thing with it, right? So I've had this debate many times, and I've gone back and forth with people, and I'm always willing to hear them out, right? Like, you know, I had this debate about here's somebody saying Val Zod and Calvin Ellis are just waiting to get adapted.
Right?
Why though? No, because I don't even see that as really a thing to do. Why do Calvin Ellis or him? And I know people might say, oh well, they did it with Spider-Man, and they did it with Miles Morales, and they did it successfully in Enter the Spider-Verse. But it's really a different type of superhero, Spider-Man. First of all, he's not a global event kind of superhero. Like
Spider-Man is a big deal.
No, I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's not a big deal. Understand what I mean by
world.
that?
I got you.
Like he's not powerful enough to be. Like you can have team ups with Peter Parker and Miles Morales that make sense because they're teaming up in a very dealing with a smaller issues than say something like Superman would have to deal with. So in a sense, Miles Morales and Spider-Man can coexist much more than having this black Superman and Clark Kent at the same time. I just don't think you could have a universe where with the two of them, Superman's already OP enough. You don't need two of them. Right?
I don't think you're going to get two.
Right, but exactly. So we're talking about one. So let's forget about they're doing a kind of Miles Morales version of Superman.
But I will say Miles Morales is also, you know, check off those diversity points, and Miles Morales, in my opinion, is better into the Spider-Verse than he is on the page. I'm not a big
but he was fantastic and Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
and I don't mind that at all.
Amazing. Yeah. That version of Miles Morales, I'm not a big fan of Miles Morales in the comics, no. At all.
But here's my problem with Miles Morales even, and it's the same thing that I have with Superman. No matter what you do with Miles Morales, with Calvin Ellis, with whoever, Superman and Spider-Man will always be considered white. You'll never like you can have a series of movies. So let's say the idea is they want to do some kind of representation where kids can be like, oh look, Superman's black, or Superman can be black and they can look up to him and whatever. That's only going to happen for 3 movies, and then he's back to white. He's always going to be white in the comics. They're never going to see him. It's not like the comics or all media is going to change around such an established character like that for him to be a black superhero that we can see into the future, where you can have a reboot of Black Panther.
They didn't even do it with Aquaman for Jason Momoa. They're not going to do that with Superman across all. That's not going to happen. I'm disagreeing with what you're saying. Yeah,
exactly. Sorry. So wouldn't it be better to get, if you want a powerful black superhero that kids and that can look up to, that can be a franchise in future, like Blade. Now they're rebooting Blade, so you don't have to have Wesley Snipes in the role. We're having a new Blade, and maybe in future there'll be another Blade. Same with Black Panther. That legacy can pass on from generation to generation. Having a black Superman, it's just going to be, okay, great, we'll have 3 movies for like 10 years, and then Superman's going to go back to being white.
And he's going to be in the DCU too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're borrowing somebody for a little bit instead of building up a genuinely black character that we can move in from generation to generation. And the same with Miles Morales. I don't care if they have a great Miles Morales Spider-Man movie. The next Spider-Man movies after him are going to be Peter Parker. In 2040, if people are still into comic book movies and comic book 3D virtual worlds or whatever, it's going to be Peter Parker. So if you want to build up these IPs and you want to build them up properly, you want to build these black characters or Asian characters or whatever, not by just swapping them over to somebody who ultimately is always going to go back to what they kind of originally were. So that's another problem. I've kind of gone through this in a in a slightly different way than I meant to. But then there's always this kind of, and this is what I have against this argument of, using Val-Zod or this idea that, Clark Kent can be any race because he's from Krypton. The fact is, again, no matter how you look at it, the story fundamentally changes when he becomes black. There are things about being black in America, especially if you're in Kansas or something like that, that is certainly going to change the person, their outlook, their perspective, in a way that if you're Superman, that's going to be meaningful, right? It's going to be meaningful if, I don't know how to put it, but it's just a perspective that if the film doesn't address, then I don't think it's going to be a good film. Sorry, Warren, what do you want to say about this?
Black Superman.
Disco Shaft is going to get his superpowers, so I'm excited to Shaft to get his superpowers.
Disco Shaft.
You said
Disco Shaft. I think you should play the black Superman the way you look, bro. Anyway.
No thanks. No thanks.
He's Luke Cage.
Well, here's the thing with the black Superman, right? And this is what they're taking the bad from Marvel. They see Marvel's Black Panther, and they're like, you know what, guys? They played a black superhero, so we need a black superhero to bring us $1 billion and have a following. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take our biggest IP, Superman, and go to Home Depot and get some paint, and now he's Black Superman. And to me, that's silly. I never looked at a character white and black until people started bringing this stuff up. I only looked at the character because of their powers. I like the Flash because he runs fast, but he's still human. I like Spider-Man because he sticks on walls. I like Green Lantern because he can make up any image through his ring. That's why I like these characters. Unfortunately, the illustrators and the writers were in a time period where if they did put a black character, they might have lost their job due to the time periods. And I can't blame them for wanting to keep their jobs, even though some of them did start branching out with like the X-Men and Black Panther. So my thing is why make a black Superman when you can do a Mr. Terrific movie? Have him build up the Justice Society, have a different universe. You guys want this different universe? You got Earth 2 right there. Earth 2 is the Justice Society. You know what I mean? And you could bring them in. That's a black character right there. You could get a good black actor. I'm not saying you can't have like if this was like a multiverse movie, of course I'm all for it. But why make this the prime universe and then you get this director to justify it like, oh, it's gonna be worthy. It's like it feels so forced and tokenized because they just want to keep up. Instead of keeping up, just try something different. Who knows? Mr. Terrific might be your Black Panther for DCEU. You never know if you don't do it right. That's why I can't be.
I honestly think, like, see, this is I kind of agree but disagree with you in a way. You know, Static Shock is something, and Mr. Terrific are things that I think, yeah, it would be great, like in future, to do those kind of movies, to branch into that kind of thing. But at the moment, I think you need like a Justice League, like, and to have some representation in the actual Justice League, to move towards like a Justice League movie. So the total focus should be on Martian Manhunter and John Stewart. That for me is the focus. You've got two right there.
Oh yeah, I agree.
One who is virtually a Black Superman, right? Like you've got like Martian Manhunter there. You know, if you say, oh well, he's not actually black, he's like he's an alien. Well, he takes on black form, a black, you know, persona in his civilian identity. I think that gives a black actor an opportunity in Hollywood to play an interesting role. And I think that's more important than it necessarily being like an actual black, you know, from Earth or something like that. And more specifically, that you know, in terms of you know, saying the argument that, oh well, he's not from Earth. Well, then Superman's not from Earth either. He's technically not a Caucasian white human being.
He's an immigrant.
He's a you know, he just happens to look like that, but he's an alien as well. So the argument still stands for him. So either way you look at it, it doesn't make any sense when you've got a Superman level character that you could build in Martian Manhunter, and then you've got a actual Earth-based black character in John Stewart, who, you know, again, their stories, and this is the most important thing for me. If you're trying to tell a traditional Superman story, right? And you don't want it bogged down by you know, the race of the person, which it seems like what they're trying to do. They're trying to literally just turn Clark Kent into a black person, right? So if you're gonna do that, then to me, it's like there's no point even making him black. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're not gonna address like he's gonna be different and have a different perspective because he's black, you're just trying to do a traditional, like, this is the Superman, hopeful, saves the day, you know, just the good guy, the quintessential good guy. Not that I'm saying a black person can't be that, but I'm saying if you're going to do it that way, then again, it for me, Superman's story, being from Kansas, being from this small town, moving to the big city, that does not reflect most of black people's experience, I think, in America. I just don't think it's not a thing that the majority of black people will be able to relate to. Whereas something like Martian Manhunter's story, and where he comes from with all of his planet, you know, being the genocide of his people or whatever, that is something where you can actually start looking at the parallels between what happened to him and, you know, why he decides to take on a black civilian identity. And then you've got, obviously, you know, John Stewart. Again, he's a black person who was in the military. We don't know too much more about his history, but he was in the military there. And, you know, again, he is somebody from Earth who's black. You can therefore get someone like Regina King, get someone who's a good writer, a better writer than Ta-Nehisi Coates, hopefully, and actually flesh out John Stewart so that he can reflect issues that actually are part of the, you know, black community. Clark Kent's issues and problems are not something that are reflected, I think, at all in the black community at all. So I don't see what the point is of hijacking his story to do that. Do you see what I mean? I don't know if I've explained myself that well.
Yeah, you did.
But you did. Go ahead, Warren. You know, when it's
Oh, no, I agree. I don't disagree. I think the main problem with DC is that their Prime universe is literally like a constant new 52 or DC reboot is getting DC rebirth. It's like a retcon after a retcon, and they don't know what to do, and it's just a shame because it's like, well, DC and Marvel fans, we always have our who's better, but like in the movie business, it's just a clear, like, as a Marvel fan, I wanna go see a good DC movie, but I can't. I've only seen like a selected what 3 movies at best over a 10-year period. That's pretty atrocious if you think about it. There's no way that you come out with that many DC movies and it's just that bad.
To
Like
be fair,
that's
a lot of the MCU movies have been pretty bad as well. So a
here
lot.
we
I
go.
don't want to get into that
Orange.
debate here right now. But
well, we're not getting to that debate.
I'm not going to get triggered. No triggering.
I personally, let's just say, I've personally liked more of the DC
Nerd,
movies.
let's just say, let's just count out. All I have to say is, if we count billions to billions, I think Disney's beating Warner Brothers in the billion department in movies. So that to me is enough right there. But I won't continue because this is not DC versus Marvel comic and development.
We could do that. We could do that.
Yeah,
we could have that
I
debate
could do this for hours and hours. I just don't like. This is okay. When I see this Black Superman, I could see this being on HBO Max as a series. I'm okay.
Yeah,
with
that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, that's true. If it was like a real Elseworld, but this is the thing. If it was a real Elseworld and it was actually genuinely looking at how being black would have changed Superman, I would be interested in that story, as long as you have a main universe Superman who is, the traditional Superman, right? And get that Justice League going, and get John Stewart. If you think Martial Manhunter is a bit too much of a gamble, get John Stewart going. And the one that I always say that I think they should really look into, considering Black Panther's success, is Vixen. Comes from like Africa and has the African totem that gives her her powers. And I know it sounds like a lot of a gamble, but I think if there's a animated show or animated film of hers, go watch that and tell me they couldn't make a sick-ass movie and do that same marketing campaign that they did for Black Panther for DC. I think it would work.
Is she a princess, a queen? Is she royal? Is she regal?
No.
It also played a lot into who T'Challa was, and to see, especially in like this country, seeing a black, king and
African prince, African,
yes. I mean, they're African, but they're still look like us. You see what I'm saying? So and there was this, this very regal family and the tradition and where they come from. And then you see, the contrast with Killmonger. So I don't know much about Vixen. You would have to kind of, give me a little bit more about her. But to see if it could to play on that level where Black Panther is. Well, because it was also the contrast of him and Killmonger and the fact that this is a royal family. Because I know what it meant for normies who are not comic book fans who just wanted to see Black Panther, because he was the first Black superhero, in the MCU, that was being portrayed on screen. And even though, they're African, it was still, a lot of people that I had conversations with, this is a diverse film, but it was an authentic story. And I don't know if we can get there with them flipping and twisting and changing Superman, because it doesn't feel grounded because it's, you know, you're just changing Clark Kent to a black man. You know, Black Panther has a history of stories that have been told, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that same, you know, when you're talking about the white Superman, he's traditionally white. Black Panther, think about the time when this character was written, right? There was very few black characters, and the fact that he was an African prince, you know, of this, technically advanced nation, you know, during that time, completely unheard of. So I think that any film that DC tries to make, unless it's a character who has that history within the comic books, it's not going to have that same impact. And also, you have to think about the internet, and then that's why I'm curious about Vixen, because you have to think about globally outside of this country what impact Black Panther had on, you know, everyone else in the world, you know. And I don't see a black Superman doing that. And that's why I think that's where it fails. Because they're always trying to play catch up. Stop. Yeah. Tell us an authentic story. You did this shit with Bob, and what happened with that movie? Okay, it was another, let me throw a bunch of diversity. Let me make this, you know, agenda-based film about, and all men are bad, which you've heard me say this because I hate that movie. Why am I going to Birds of Prey? Why am I going to expect you to do something different here now? Because you're completely reimagining characters once again to check off a box. In my opinion, it's not an authentic story. It's not going to be grounded in a lot of these things that I feel like that would make a story about a black superhero from DC, something that I can connect with and to feel, because I feel like it's just cash cow. That's all you're doing. You're basing off what is current and what is hot right now, trying to cast more diverse actors and be on trend with black male actors after everything especially that's going on in our country.
To be fair to DC, Wonder Woman did start that trend of films.
No, I'm not talking about.
Let me
black led. I'm talking specifically.
Let me talk specifically to what you said about like Vixen. Now, of all three of the ones I've mentioned, which I think are the only ones that they should really be looking into, Martian Manhunter, Jon Stewart, and Vixen, the great thing about them is people don't know them, so you can tweak a lot of their story. Martian Manhunter is a bit more known. Is a little bit more known, but like again, you know, his story, I think it lends itself well. I mean, he comes from a planet, it's, you know, it's decimated, so that like his people are all killed, and you know, he comes to Earth, and you know, etc., etc. So again, I think that's a good reason where, you know, if you get a great like black writer or somebody who's, you know, something like the guy who wrote 12 Years a Slave or whatever, who's also wrote comic books as well. If you get somebody like them to look at that story and, you know, and put their own voice into that, I don't think it will impact people in the same way as doing that with Superman, because you can't tweak Superman. Everyone knows where Superman's from, how he came here, where, you know, what town he's from, like Kansas, Smallville. They know the whole shebang about him, whereas these ones that I've mentioned, it's a little bit less. So again, you can tweak areas, you can make it connect to, you know, the black kind of, you know, story or whatever. So that's one thing. Yeah. But with Vixen specifically, and this is why I'm saying it connects with Black Panther. Black Panther is about like this grand fantasy of Africa, where like he's a king, and it's of the most technologically advanced nation in the world, etc. And I know that appealed. But with Vixen, I think what's interesting is it plays to the opposite side, right? Where she actually comes from the real Africa, like the Africa of our earth, right? Like where it's not like this developed place or whatever. And her story is grounded and rooted in that. And in that way, you can explore and celebrate like the real Africa in a way, but also kind of look at have her deal with like, her first adventure could be like something to do with a story to do with dealing with some of the corruption or something that's going on in Africa at the moment, and her coming, because she was adopted to America when she was like a child, and she the only connection she has to Africa is this mythical amulet that she's got, which gives her the power to take on, like, she's very powerful. She basically can she can speak to animals plus take on animal characteristics, like fly like a bird, like be as strong as whatever animal, fast as whatever animal as well. So she can do all of that. Plus, you can make her more powerful. You don't have to stick to that power set. You can even enhance her abilities a bit so that she's up there with the Justice League almost, right? So again, the thing that's great about her is, my point is that she's based in the real Africa, but also her story is something that you can shape. It's not something that's iconic yet. So you can be much more creative and not have people outraged by you changing and doing things, much like with Marvel, what Marvel has done with Guardians of the Galaxy, with Ant-Man, with Thor even. They've been able to come in there and tweak things because these characters aren't iconic yet. They made them iconic. So that's why I would say that one is the safest bet. You can play on the same marketing strategy as Black Panther, a traditional, like an African hero. She comes from Africa. She's finding her roots, having come from America.
What?
But, sorry, go on. What were you saying?
That's what I read. What? I'm not sleeping.
You sound like you was snoring, dude.
No. I
wasn't trying to say it out loud.
No, I'm actually sitting up in my chair, breathing heavy. That's why. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not trying to hate on you for breathing heavy.
No. I was like, why is she saying that?
You was asleep. I'm sorry, Warren.
Oh, okay. No worries. No worries. Anyway, that was my point basically. Like, I think those characters you can do like more creative things with, and with the writers these days who don't like to stick to the, they don't like to stick to the source material that much. It would be better for them as well to be able to get these characters that they can be more creative with. You start being creative with Superman, you start being creative with Wonder Woman, Batman, these icons. That's when people get pissed off. You do lesser known characters, people don't get as pissed with that kind of stuff. So that was my point anyway. If you want to respond to that, you can. If not, I can just read read what some of the people are saying here.
I had a whole. No, this is just the basic point that I know you probably obviously agree here. The point that I'm going to make is Krypton is full of, multiracial family members. Supergirl, Superman. So I think that when we see people on Krypton, it's going to be extremely diverse. And that was the only thing, because when you were talking, when you said something in the beginning that made me think of that. And I'm curious, I know a lot of people were outraged, but the outrage, I know she's not on the same scale as Superman. And, I kind of like proposed that question about Aquaman to you. But why and I agree, but why is the fact that Supergirl is now race bended not seem to matter as much as it does with Superman?
Well, I think because her race is not intrinsic to her character. That I think people can sense that, like with Batman, his race is really intrinsic to his. It's a mix between the iconicness of the character and that their race is intrinsically connected to them. Like, there's certain characters like Aquaman, to be honest, where you change his race and nothing changes about him. even the Flash, even though I'd be reluctant to change his race, if you change Barry Allen or his race, nothing actually changes about the Flash. I wouldn't do it personally because I think he's too iconic. Right? There's the iconic side.
You don't
and then
think
there's
that if it's the Flash, the fact that, you know, his father is in prison for something that he didn't do as a black man, and the death of his mother would not speak to more of a black issue and maybe affect him in a different way?
Exactly. That's a very good point. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's actual characters that not only would their story not necessarily, it wouldn't change anything about them if they were race bent, but actually the themes of their story play more to, you know, black people or say Asian people or whatever. So it's like Superman, it doesn't do that. With someone like Flash, it does. You know, even someone like Magneto, I've proposed, like, you could probably race bend Magneto to, because you can't have him always being. But hear me out. You can't have him being from World War II if you want him in the modern day. Like, he can't be like from the out. Like, how old is he going to be? 90, 100? You know, like, but you have to update what made him change into Magneto if he's going to make sense in the modern world. So you could race bend him to Asian, you could race bend him to black, you could race bend him to something, and have it that another conflict, a more recent one, is the thing that creates his mindset about human beings, right? So with characters like that, again, I feel like when it doesn't change their character fundamentally, but in fact you can use it to actually address certain issues within a particular community, I think that is a genuine reason to race bend, and that's one where you can actually be creative. Again, with the Flash, personally, I wouldn't do it, but you raised a fantastic point of why the Flash actually could, you know, you could do that. Superman, tell me one issue that he faces that even makes sense.
The fact that he is an outsider.
He wears glasses.
He's an outsider from another planet.
He wears glasses.
And you know, if they did make him black, he would have like that double feeling of being an outsider. What does that mean to be black in America? And he's also this alien. So, I mean, just the fact that maybe he's this alien from another universe, and, you know, he comes from a very different world where it's, you know, multiracial, and they go along those lines, which, you know, we both just spoke about. Him coming to a world where it's so focused on the color of his skin kind of even plays into, you know, Superman,
the immigrant,
the immigrant. And I'm not, you know, and I'm just like proposing these things.
You're spitballing.
You know. So, yeah. I mean, what do you think about that? If that was where they kind of went with it?
So him being the ultimate kind of immigrant story, and therefore, like, as a black person, that would play out. I suppose, to me, that just isn't deep enough. That isn't specific enough. Like, that could be Martian Manhunter, that could be Wonder Woman, that could be a number of different other heroes. Why would you have to stick that on Superman necessarily? You know what I mean? Whereas what you said about the Flash is a very, very specific. Like, this guy, his dad is basically set up for you know, like and what's it called? He's what the hell is the word I'm looking for? He's basically convicted for a crime he didn't commit, essentially, and you know, he's wrongfully convicted. That really plays into like that kind of story, and it's interesting. It's interesting that you know, they got Rick Famuyiwa, a black director, initially was going to direct the Flash movie, and he was going to address some of that stuff in the movie, even though Flash was white, and you know, his dad was white. He wanted to start talking about those things, and DC put the kibosh on it and said, nah, we're not having it. So I think you have a really, really valid point there. again, though, I just say with some certain iconic characters, Superman, Batman, Flash, I think it's kind of a little bit. It's a little bit harder to do, but yeah, that's all I have to say to that. But it was a really good points about Superman there. So let's. Was there a comment that you were pointing out, like you wanted to respond to?
I think I was just reading Andrea's last comment where he's talking about Magneto being him. No, I don't believe it would work for him. And I understand.
Could you tell us why, Andrea? But go on.
I feel like, even though I kind of agree with it, he kind of, something needs to change within his story. Just being that Holocaust survivor, I feel like is such a big part of who he is as a character. So maybe, yeah, we'll be changing power sets a little bit, but maybe, taking a little bit of something from Wolverine, maybe he ages slowly or something. I don't know, but I just don't know.
Doesn't that seem a little disrespectful to Wolverine, though?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Like,
it does. It does.
He has to have some limitations.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not. Maybe it's not necessarily. He's not, healing fastly, but it's just the aging that slowed down. And maybe and maybe they could.
And so he'll be so much more older than Professor X. Yeah, or does Professor X age slowly as well? Like yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know. It's like a thing. Like, that's why I feel like the rumors about them being from the civil rights movement might happen.
Yeah, I think the civil rights, but it doesn't have to be the civil rights. I mean, there was Bosnia, which was a white conflict.
But I don't know. I just feel like the MCU kind of plays more into like American issues, and that's one they've not really went there. So that's why I believe that if they're going to change it and adapt it, it'll be a more of a, our government and how our countries ran, and the things that happen here and the things that have happened with these characters.
And of course, the interesting thing is that Stan Lee based those characters off Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So in a way, again, I don't see that as
it's kind of going full circle in the sense that that's where they started, and I could see it, but I don't know. I don't know. If I
wouldn't change Professor X
to the actors.
I wouldn't change Professor X, for instance, because I think that does fundamentally change him. But Malcolm,
maybe but maybe Denzel could be Magneto. He's older now. He could
do you know? There's one. I did a fan cast recently, and I suggested a black actor as Magneto, and everyone thought it was hilarious. It was Forrest Whitaker.
I heard about that. I heard about the infamous Forrest Whitaker incident.
You don't like it either?
No, I remember I laughed. I was like, what? It's Magneto? No.
Okay, maybe he's given us an answer there.
Or something.
He's given us an answer here. So his surviving the Holocaust is a big part of the Magneto character. To change that, just race swap him as a black Magneto wouldn't be compelling enough, looking through a historical standpoint. But I don't see how, because yeah, go on then.
No, I don't like race bending characters, but I feel that if they swapped him and they did go along the lines of the civil rights movement and things that were happening during that time, it would still have the historical impact. Because there were people who marched and they were sprayed with water hose, or they stood. These things happen, and to get, equal but separate schools overturned, or the right to sit on the bus where you want. Like all these things I think would historically make sense, but I don't necessarily want to see Magneto flip to another race, but I feel like that they could possibly tell a compelling story and connect it to that.
I think people really forget the horrors of the civil rights movement and the terror, the absolute fundamental terror that some people were living under in like the Jim Crow South and stuff. You literally couldn't escape from the town without like people hunting you down to be hanged, or like just trying to get voting rights, and many people being killed, their houses being burnt down, like for even trying to have a voice in the matter. They were living under a situation of abject terror, really. And yeah, they weren't in concentration camps, and they weren't this kind of in a war, but in terms of changing someone's perspective to have a cynical view of humanity, the same cynical view that Magneto has, of course, living through that moment. I would not even necessarily make him part of like the civil rights kind of marches and stuff. I would make him somebody living in the deep South who was part of, well, yeah, that would still be part of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like someone,
of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. That's a good point. But I just mean someone living in the South where they were dealing with like just the numerous kind of injustices that were happening in terms of. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, or even with Magneto, even though this is just me throwing out, like I said, if he was from the North, him kind of playing more into that Malcolm X role would also make a little bit more sense, because then you have a completely different, you would have, someone, Professor X, he could be more of, have those qualities of Martin Luther, which is who he's based off of. And, Magneto being from the North, and having a whole different take on it, and being slightly more militant, and being, a member of with Farrakhan, and maybe he's a Black Muslim even, you never know what they could do or what kind of story they could tell, but I don't want to see that.
Well,
at all.
See, I think you're extending the word tokenized too far there, because I don't see that as tokenized. When I see as token, I see it as making them black because you want to fill a quota. If you're telling a story that is organic, that, it's like, basically, to me, it's like...
but you feel differently about Superman.
I feel very differently about Superman, because I don't believe it's... I really, they could convince me. I'm open-minded to anything. Maybe I'll go in, I'll sit down, I'll watch it and go, actually, you know what? That makes sense, doing Superman like that. Or that's an interesting way of looking at Superman in a different kind of way. But I doubt it, put it that way. I really doubt it. Whereas someone like Magneto, again, if you're trying to tell you're trying to put the X-Men in the modern world, right? And you're trying to tell an X-Men story, that's set now, that is relevant to now. And you want to tell that organically, I don't see how you can put him in World War II. So you're going to have to change it one way or the other. Now, you can change that to anything. You can change it to Bosnia. You can change it to the Viet Cong in Vietnam. You could change wherever Magneto comes from. It has to be somewhere where there's a mass genocide, there's a conflict, and he's a victim of that, right? And his mother dies in that conflict because he's trying, and that's when he first realizes his powers. That's what I think are the core features of Magneto. I don't think the core features of him are that he had to be from the Holocaust specifically. That's where I take some, because it's like, that's like saying Superman always has to be born in the 1940s because that's when he was from in the comics.
But what about
that's the
we
same
have this
argument to me.
multiverse? We have this multiverse, and for some reason, there's this time period where, you know, they come out on the other side, and he's still born in 1940, and it's just the year doesn't link up, possibly too. Well, I'm curious. Okay, Warren has not seen anything either.
No,
I feel like Warren, I keep talking.
Yeah, true. Warren. Sorry.
Oh no, I just, because it's so good banter between you two. It's like,
well, I want to make sure you get your words in too.
It's because so like the problem with me is I don't want to seem like Captain Switzerland, like Mr. Neutral, but like whenever, whether it's DC or Marvel, I didn't care. I don't care who's the color. I just want a good movie. That's all I ever wanted. Like, like when I saw Fantastic Four kind of threw me off for a bit, because with the whole Michael B. Jordan, who's a good actor, don't get me wrong, and then the whole explaining that Sue got adopted. But then the thing is, okay, fine, you did it, but then the movie was just terrible. The Doctor Doom was terrible. The whole movie overall, that Fox movie was just awful, which makes people not want you to do stuff like that when you race bend and change things, because it's not even a good movie. Just stick to the source material. There's other things available. Like, I don't care.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Warren, just because I'll just be really quick. Stick to the source material, right? So let's say the source material for Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman, they were made in the 1930s, right? If we were sticking to the source material all this time, they would have never updated it so that Batman's origin could be in the 1960s, or it could be in the 1990s or the 2000s. It would have just always been in the 1930s, right? So that's what I'm saying is, like, if you're going to update a character in terms of the time period that they first appear, then that's not sticking to the source material.
What
right?
I mean what I mean by source material is, like, we know Superman is, even though Superman is an alien and he's from a different planet, but he's just to America, he's an American, which is like a weird thing, right? Because he's the white guy, whatever, glasses, you know, came small town upbringing, blah blah blah. We know the story. What I'm saying is, like, when I looked at Johnny the Human Torch, I didn't see, oh, it's a blonde guy with blue eyes. I saw a guy threw in fire. When I looked at Ben Grimm, I didn't see a brunette, brown-eyed white dude who used to be I see a rock guy, or the Invisible Woman, or Mr. I looked at the powers. When I see, you know, Spider-Man, or even Superman, he's just a strong. He can fly. He can do this. Other DC characters like Aquaman, even though I'm not an Aquaman fan, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't care. Like, why are we forcing, just because this, and this is, and as a Marvel person, it's like, okay, we paved the way for these actors, like these characters, but now it's like, instead of just exploring other characters, like you said, with Jon Stewart and Vixen and Martian Manhunter, we're trying to, like, race spend and do this stuff. And it's just it's not needed. It's just taking up time. It's not that I don't care for it, because, like I said, I'm okay with this if this all was put on, like, HBO Max. You want to know why? Because you can test it out there, And guess what happens? It doesn't matter what happens because you have episodes to explain it. You can either now say, you know what, this series did so good, we're going to make a movie off of it. But to just throw it out there to the public, you don't think you're going to get backlash already? Why not experiment with it first on your platform? Build up your audience where in something else. Like, it doesn't make
I see
sense
what
to
you're
me.
saying. I
It just
see what
doesn't
you're
make
saying,
sense.
man. And I agree with that. But like, I don't think it's, I think you need to get Superman out there. But I think that, as you said, for me, if it's good, I'll always accept it. If it's really, really good film, I'll always accept it. But um, as for now, even though Terrence thinks I'm into agendas, look, if anything is ever, Terrence, hello by the way, but I want to say this before you say anything, and I'm going to ask you a specific question. If anything is ever about an agenda and it's not about the story, I don't like it. If it's about the story, I'm always open. If agenda, if it's like, oh, we've got to have this amount of black people, or we've got to have this amount of, or, oh, it would be nice for black people to see Superman as black, that kind of thing, so the kids can have someone, any of that kind of shit, get out of here with that. If it's about the story, I'm always willing to listen. If someone's got a good story. That being said, since we're talking about Magneto, and you've basically said, Terrence, that you don't like the idea of of race swapping at all, but specifically Magneto. I want to have this debate with you and Ashley, so we go back and forth, and Warren, of course. So why do you think that you can't race bend Magneto, or what do you say to some of? Mm-hmm.
Before I answer your question, I just wanted to let you know that when I said agenda men in the chat, that was not a play on your name. I would never do that. I was only
Don't
speaking
worry,
merely
man.
about that I
Even
can
if it was, I
picture.
would take it as a joke. But so don't
Right,
worry
but no,
about
no.
it.
I just wanted to let you know that was not about you. It was more of like what I could picture in my mind of what the studio would do with the name. So I was just
The
kind of having
X-Men,
fun with
yeah,
that. Yeah, but
yeah, I got it.
to me, I feel like as Hollywood has demonstrated, you can do anything with the characters, but a lot of times when I see like gender and race swapping and changes of the sexuality of the character, it's always in the articles. That's the first thing. I'm like, I want to know about the characters in the story, not what you think that, black people want or what Hispanics want and all these things, because most of the time they're wrong. I
Right.
didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that silly shit. And a lot of times, you have these examples of the shit being bad because they do not put the characters in the story first. Like if I'm watching a movie and they're telling me, "Oh, here's Magneto," and I'm like, "Well, why is he black? That's not Magneto." And then I have to watch the movie, and at that point I can go, "Okay, well, he has the personality traits, so that's good."
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully I enjoy whatever it is because I would want to enjoy it. I don't want to dislike anything from Marvel or DC because I love them both so
Okay.
much. But at the same time, like if I'm in the office, if I'm in the creative office and they're like, "Well, we're gonna make Magneto black and Charles Xavier black," I'd say, well, why are you going to do that when you could just use black characters from the comics? Or here's a better idea. How about you make up some new characters? Like if you're so desperate to fill a quota, because I feel like you're going to change them for the sake of appeasing black people, but then I have a feeling that you're not going to care about the story. You're going to miss the whole sight of what these characters are supposed to be. So those are my general concerns until I see it because that's the pattern. I'm like, why are
Mm-hmm.
you going to do like that'll extend to like when you were talking earlier about this whole black Superman thing. I'm like, no one asked for that. I'm like, you shouldn't even be having a conversation with me about a black Superman and as I would say, a tokenized Superman because the original Superman is one way and then now you have a black one. Whether he exists in the comic books or not, it's still a tokenized version of that established character. But I'm just like, there's no reason you should be telling me that you're going to do that, yet in your main universe, which is the DCU,
Let me ask.
Superman only has one movie. I don't like that. We can get to that stuff later. You got to do the core stuff first.
Let me ask you this, and I'm going to open this up to both Warren and
I'm back.
Ashley. Warren and Ashley, right? I didn't. I do that with everything, by the way. Like I'm always like blah blah blah. Do you see any difference, like, between race swapping? So, like, is race swapping Hawkman as bad as race swapping Superman or Batman?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, you want me to go first? You want Warren to go?
I'll go in order of people on the screen. So go Ashley, Warren, then you, Taryn.
To me, it is just because, like,
can you give reasons though? Like,
agreed. Why do I agree with that? For the simple fact, it's very basic and very simple. I feel that it's just an easy fix. It's easy to just change the race of a character instead of trying to create new characters or use established characters who maybe people might not know, or maybe and this is also a way for you to try to make in your mind WB, because I feel like that they are almost at a loss with Superman here, and they feel like, oh, how can we make him more relatable? Oh, let's make him a black man.
Let's say Hawkman or Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, there is a version of him in the comics, the Ultimatum comics, where he is black.
That was changed. That was changed.
Yes, it was changed, but it exists.
Yeah, but that was very
version.
recent.
But that's a different version of him. When was that? 2003, 4? What year was that?
They made it was after Samuel. Yeah, it was Ultimates because they made it look like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, it was 2002, 2003. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been almost 20 years.
But
it doesn't matter. But if we're creating,
Nick Fury existed in the comics for much longer. And
yes, but it's a different version of him. Exactly.
It's Nick Fury. Nick Fury is now black in the comics.
The Ultimate version is not necessarily the same. He's a different character.
But totally then I think they explained that Nick Fury was like his son and other aspects, but he's an established character that's now in the 616. So he's not the
same Nick Fury at all. He's a different character altogether. Completely different character.
Okay, I mean, I can slightly accept that, but as it's presented to us in the MCU, he's Nick Fury. He's like the only Nick Fury, and like and
but what I'm saying is, in the comic book, that Nick Fury exists, and he is a completely different version of Nick Fury. Is what I'm saying. And then that's the version we got. The ultimatum run. I mean, a lot of the characters that we got within the MCU are based off of those characters. So
are you saying there is a white Nick Fury and a black Nick Fury who currently are in comics now?
Currently right now, and I haven't read anything new within the last 2 years. Yes,
the Nick Fury is like kind of the white Nick Fury is now like the Beyonder, not the Beyonder, like a Watcher sort of character, and the black Nick Fury is running Shield and all that stuff right now.
That's interesting. I did not know that. So you learn something new every day.
Wait. I'm sorry. What? Ask your question again, because I was waiting to go with the.
Okay, so my question was, and I don't know if Ashley had finished, but like my question was.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you can continue. My question was that is it like, because for me race swapping it depends on the character, and I was just saying, is it the same to you to race swap Batman as it is to Nick Fury, as it is to Supergirl or something like that? Like, is race swapping, this, like, if you race swap Superman, is that the same to you as race swapping Hawkman? Like, it's equally as bad?
In my opinion, it was with Aquaman.
Yeah. No, he was asking me to repeat the question.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was just answering.
I wanted to make sure that Ashley and Warren went. Warren, did you go?
No, I'm waiting for Ashley to finish.
Okay.
I mean, that's my only point, is that race bending any character that already exists within this world, I do not agree with. Jason Momoa being Aquaman, to me, made the most sense because of his nationality and the region of who Aquaman would traditionally be. But I still didn't like it because it was still a race bend at the end of the day. I don't like gender swaps and I don't like race bends because I feel like it's an easy fix to get you to those diversity points instead of trying to tell real, true stories where you feel like that you want to really elevate these diverse characters. And instead of just saying, you know what, this week, let's make Superman black because that's easy. And he's still going to be Clark Kent. And that's just how it's going to go. Instead of really taking the time to tell new stories with new characters. And we know that some of them have failed. Some of them because they go too woke with the new ones. Instead of trying to really tell a story with a new character, with a different power set, with, any of these things. Instead of just saying, oh, even like I talked about Miles Morales, that was, we need to fill a quota here. Let's get a black Spider-Man and put him in the comic books. And that's what even happened with him. I like, when you talk about Superman and the black versions of Superman, still essentially these characters, the bigger ones, they're white. And even sometimes the smaller ones even revert back to their original state of who they were originally. So the fact that we're just reimagining characters is ridiculous. And I'm tired of it.
So you're saying like a black man can never play the Joker?
I mean, in my opinion, no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I'm not trying to.
No. I know you're not.
I have my point of view.
You know me. You know. I just how to talk. I know you're not doing anything, nerd man.
Warren, man, go for it.
Well, the thing is that they. So how I want to word this properly. So.
Oh gosh, hold on. I'm sorry. I live in.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. I thought I had something playing in the background. So like
Dummy's truck. I'm sorry.
The race swapping thing. Okay, so here's where it did work. I'm just gonna use this as an example where I didn't mind it. Mordo is not a character that I see that people will know so much that they care about a race swap. I think it's a thing. I think you're going in a thin line when it comes to the race swapping because, like,
is that the villain from Ant-Man 3?
No, that was the side character in Doctor Strange, the black guy.
One? What about the ancient one?
Well, and he played a good actor. That was the thing. Like, he carried some of that movie with Doctor Strange, as much as people don't want to admit that. Like,
he was great.
He was great. I like.
But what about the ancient one? What do you think about the ancient one? We get a race bend. I mean, like, we get a gender bend. We like all of that.
Well, that didn't bother the ancient one didn't bother me because we don't see the ancient one much in the comics. We know it's a Asian person, but
yeah,
they could have easily done an Asian woman too. But then that's still offensive in some for Asian culture, I believe, because of like the way the men are in that culture. So it's like, how do you appease the Asian culture?
Warren coming out with the Asian.
No, because like,
no, I'm joking.
with that sense, so like,
no, I'm joking with Warren. Man.
I want them to like not race swap because that's what I grew up on, kind of like Ashley, because there's other characters. Like, look at how they develop. Like, I'm gonna take two instances of two different characters, white and black. We've seen Hawkeye slowly develop from like Avengers, from the Thor movie, to the Avengers movie, and now he gets his own solo. We've seen War Machine, Rhodey, a black character. He developed from Iron Man 1 as a side character, Iron Man 2. We've seen him in other movies as well. Now he's getting his own series. You can slowly build up these characters, and now that we've got an established universe and we've now
before you finish, I just want to say something because I won't be able to remember later. Right. Rhodey for me is an example of like a black character that I really don't like, because they're just a character that is just a side character to the main hero, right? Like almost like a sidekick or something like that.
So
like
how do you feel about Sam Wilson?
The black sidekick. He doesn't build his own. He doesn't build his own shit. It's all Tony's technology. He's not like ultimately.
But you can say that for Robin. You can say that for Robin and Nightwing and Batgirl and.
He's a decadent.
I agree. I don't like any of those characters, but specifically, I don't like them as being putting them forward as good representation because they're original black characters. They're not original black characters. They're Iron Man, but like just another version where
Rhodey is a lot more than. I mean, he's become a lot more than that. Rhodey is also in his own right very successful, so I mean the MCU Rhodey has kind of like taken a back burner a lot in certain ways, but I don't think Rhodey's a bad character though.
Okay. No, I don't think so.
Because I mean, how do you feel about Sam Wilson real quick?
Same thing. Exactly.
I mean, he is a quota filling black Captain America though.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's also that he's, again, like Captain America is always gonna like. It's like they're borrowing us Captain America for a little bit. Like it's the same kind of thing of like us not owning our own thing or having our own thing. It's like we're taking something for them for a while, and then ultimately when they recast Captain America, he's going to be white. It's only going to be one. They're going to pull this stunt once, and then that's it.
But
I mean, Sam does give up the shield. So I mean, I did just read Sam Wilson, Captain America. I did read that right before.
What I was getting at was that we had two minor characters in a sense that slowly build up, and now they're getting their own series, and now we're seeing them more. Sure. And that's how you build up these characters that are quote unquote like sidekicks or team members, and they get a fan following. I'm excited for the Kate Bishop series that's going to come out with Hawkeye. To see Jeremy Renner, a low level, because Hawkeye is interesting. He has no powers, but he's on a team surrounded by God, techs, and other people.
He is interesting. Why? Okay, Warren, you're right. I agree with you, Warren. Your message.
So, like, to me, you don't have to.
What did he say?
And like, there's like, for instance, in the comics, there's the New Warriors. You have Night Thrasher. He's a smart tech guy who's kind of like a Batman-ish, but he does, and you could put him on. You could put the New Warriors on like Disney Plus. You have these characters. Just come up with a good storyline. Just take your time. Sure. You don't have to rush. There's characters out there. If the story is good and the plot is good, the casting good, the acting is good, the writing is good, race won't matter at the end of the day. People just want to go see a good movie. That's my thing. But when you're shoving this stuff down because these are iconic properties and brands to make money, that's where I have a problem too. So like, I do agree with Ashley for 60% of it, but then the other 40, it's like, well, they did more though, right? So like, I can't really complain. But then when you do Michael B. Jordan Human Torch, I'm like, please jump off a roof. Like, what did you do?
That really didn't make a lot of sense. I thought that was weird, but
that's where I'll end with that.
Yeah. By the way, I was only
one
laughing because
last
you
thing.
said I agreed with most of what you said. I just was like, I
One last
laughed
thing.
because you said Hawkeye is a really good character. I don't, I know
Oh, yeah,
you
go ahead.
people.
He is a good character.
I have one last thing to
I
say.
understand you think that. That's so
One last
sorry.
thing
I
to
You're gonna
say
shouldn't have.
love the show.
is that like look at Shang-Chi,
Okay.
like they introduced the 10 rings and now they're doing like, okay, we've seen the 10 rings in like the only time we saw it is twice, right? In Ant-Man, a little bit of the tattoo, and then we saw it in the
In the one
first
shot too.
yeah, in the one shot. So like, okay, we're having an Asian like seeing Shang-Chi, okay, even though I like Iron Man and I like the Mandarin because the Mandarin's basically Iron Man's Joker. I'll give this movie a shot because it's a different character. We're seeing like a martial artist, which is cool because people do like martial arts. Fair, and then you're appeasing the Asian community because this character was already made. So let's see how it goes. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not saying Marvel's like just inventing the wheel. I'm sure DC has their own sort of characters. They just need to flesh it
I
out.
think they should do that Atom movie. I really think they should do that Atom movie with the Asian guy in that.
But
I
I'm
thought
done.
that was really good.
I'm done. That's all I have to say.
So, for me, if I were in charge, there would never be any race swapping or gender swapping. Like that person, like I would immediately fire that human if they put that on my desk, because then they would go, well, shouldn't we have this, this, and this? I'm like, absolutely, but I would want it to be in a natural way. I would want to use original black characters, Hispanic characters. These characters already exist. So, like for me, there's a difference between these tokenized characters. Like you have the ones that they pull out of their ass on a Tuesday, and then you have the ones that exist in the comic books. I would prefer that they use the one from the comic books, but to me, I've always preferred the original black characters, like a T'Challa or a Blade or a Luke Cage or somebody like that. Like not so much like Sam Wilson, like I like him and he started as an original black character, then they turned him into the tokenized Cap. That was still cool, but I liked when he was just Falcon. Just stuff like that. I think for me, it's very simple. Like you do not need to do all these changes because the normies, they don't know the difference anyway. They had to, you had to build up all these Marvel movies and stuff for them to become household names. Like if you were not into the comic books, you didn't know who the fuck these characters were. So you had to do a good movie, and then from there, then they become household names once individuals gravitated towards the character through proper storytelling, or at least so to the degree that most humans would be on board with it. So you can do the same thing with any of these other characters that are merely on the shelf and are either already dead or dying, because every time there's an opportunity to use them, instead of using them, you're like, nah, we'll just race swap Superman because Superman is cool. We'll just race swap Batman because he's cool. I'm like, no, why don't you use? There's a Black Robin in the comics. Why don't you do that? There's opportunities for them to use these black characters. So it's just sad to me when they don't. Like I'm like, where's John Henry Irons? Luckily, they used them on Superman and Lois recently. I'm like, that's cool. I'm
Yeah.
like, you have opportunities to do that, and then the average person could go, wow, I didn't know about him. There's thousands and thousands of
See,
characters that you don't know about, which if they
yeah.
use them, then you can learn about them. Now, if it doesn't work, then you could try again some years later, but you never know until you do it. Because back in the day, like when I was in middle school, me being 32 at this point in time, I had plenty of conversations about, it would be cool to see all these other characters because, outside of your main characters like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and then the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man specifically in Marvel, these characters were unknown. So you have to
Yeah.
get them out there. So when you get them out there, to me, it's simple that you respect the characters. You put them out there. Like when I watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier, when they introduced Isaiah Bradley, I was like, I remember him, and I was just like, see, that is someone you can use because one of my friends asked me at the time. He was like, "How do you feel about Isaiah Bradley?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Well, you normally say that you don't like tokenized characters." And I was like, it depends. Most of the time I don't when it comes from, them just pulling it out of their ass. But Isaiah Bradley does exist in the comic books. And he was like, okay, with that, well, how do you feel about him? I was like, he was cool. I mean, I thought he was all right. I never really thought like I want to see him per se. And it was like when they
Mm-hmm.
did him, I was kind of surprised because I'm like, are they actually going to show what happened to him? Because the MCU, they don't
Mm-hmm.
roll like that. They don't do like deep,
Yeah.
serious shit like that. So I was surprised that they even did
That
him.
they
And
weren't
then
there. Yeah.
right, like we didn't get to see anything like I wanted to, but Isaiah Bradley talked about it, and for the humans that were watching it, most of them, that was enough. I wish they would have leaned into it more, but you only had like 6 episodes, so I get it. But I
Mm-hmm.
like when they do stuff like that. I'm like, there are plenty of stories. You never have to make stuff up because that's when it gets complicated. Because then, I'm sitting there, say if I'm in the
Wait,
creative room.
Terrence. Let me respond to this because one
Okay.
thing we only have like I'm not going to stay on for much longer,
Okay.
and I just want to respond to some of like what you're saying there. First of all, for me, the kind of black characters that we need, and I might be wrong about this. I might be completely wrong, but I feel like the kind of black characters we need are ones disconnected from anyone else's story
Yeah.
but their own.
Right.
I respect those characters, like Sam Wilson, like Isaiah Bradley, and all of that. Like they make Captain America's universe more interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
as stories of their own, they're always connected to Captain America. It's kind of like when you think about that Steel movie, there was a lot wrong with the movie Steel from
Yeah.
the 90s. But one of the things that was really bad about it is you can't have a Steel movie without Superman in it because he's so connected to the story of Superman. Now, that's fine to present in a Superman movie to flesh out his mythos, but it's still his story at the center of and what makes
Nerdman.
sense.
I want to
Nerdman,
say
if
that
I
even
may,
though,
Nerdman.
yeah, Isaiah Bradley does have a connection to Captain America, that story, unlike a lot of the other ones, that truth comic, tells you, it relates a lot of things that were happening to black soldiers, during when they
Sure.
were being tested for syphilis and all these things. So when it comes to Isaiah Bradley, yes, he does have that connection to Cap, but it was because he did the same things. He had this super serum running through his veins. He was the only survivor, right? Out of everybody, if everyone else, it was only him. And the fact that he risked his life, he saved people, and then he was imprisoned, okay? And then and thought to be dead and didn't exist anymore, kind of with his story. I like the parallels on him on the opposite end of Captain America. I agree with you about Sam Wilson, Miles Morales, and everyone else. But with Isaiah Bradley, I feel a lot differently about his character because it kind of speaks to during this time. Here was they wanted these black men to go in and to do these things, but they didn't get the recognition, and they didn't get the medals or the honor, just like as it relates to the same time where they were, fighting the front lines as soldiers during these moments of segregation. So Isaiah Bradley for me has a different feel, and I love that comic so much.
So,
And I love
To,
Isaiah
to wait,
Bradley as a
no,
character.
no,
wait,
and
so to go
I
off of
completely respect that. But all right, go on,
okay, so
Terrence.
to your first point about like Steel, right? Like if I were in charge, the first movie would be about Steel because he was doing his thing in the military in terms of, developing weapons and it fell into the wrong hands and stuff like that. And then later on, when he encountered Superman once he fought Doomsday, then you had all that kind of stuff and then Superman saved his life. And when he made his steel suit, he put the S emblem in the cape to honor him. You know what I mean? So by the second movie, I would show his connection to Superman. So there's that. There's just that very specific way that you would have to tackle that, especially if it's part of a larger
But
DC
again,
universe.
I mean, again, that doesn't address my problem that you're still telling part of Superman's mythos. You're not.
I agree. No, that's what I'm saying.
My thing that I'm saying is that the black and Asian and gay or whatever characters that they are focusing on, I want them to be characters that stand by themselves as powerful characters with their own story. So Spawn.
That is exactly why Nerdman. That is exactly
Martian
why
Manhunter, like Vixen. Yeah, come.
That is exactly why. Like, okay, when I read Isaiah Bradley's story, right, I'm like, this human only exists because of Steve Rogers. They specifically say we're looking for another Steve Rogers, and we're going to test it on the black soldiers. So to me,
right.
the excitement fell away because I'm like, this is not an original black character. You exist because of this white established character. So I was always more drawn to the black character being the black character, and it's not because of this other character who happens to be white. You know, like some of the names I mentioned earlier, they are what they are because that's them, not because this was the guy that came before him, this is his friend, or this is another experimentation down the line. So that's what I prefer. But at the same time, whatever these humans in Hollywood decide to do, if you make it good, right? Like, because I'm like, to me, you've already like kind of turned me off to it because I'm like, that's not the character from the comic, or, you know, if I feel like they're using the character incorrectly. So now, aside from me being a fan, I'm going to watch it no matter what, but I would rather go in there with a pleasant state of mind versus a bad taste in my mouth that essentially the good film or the good show would have to watch out, you know. So that's how it is. And I'm like, they choose Nerdman on a regular basis to complicate things, and then when it fails, then, you know, everyone's a sexist, they're a racist, and all these things. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with caring about the characters and wanting to see them presented properly and done in a respectful way. Everything that you want from whatever you're doing with these comic books, it already exists. Just use it. It's as simple as that. It's very simple, but I don't know what it is. But in this day and age, you have to do this, this, and that. Like with Wonder Woman, when I saw that, it was awesome, right? You had a badass female character. They didn't force agenda down her mouth. I'm like, just do the characters the right way.
No, I get that. Guys, jump in. What did you? Any response to what Terrence had to say? Absolutely not. No response. You're on mute, Ashley.
I agree. Sorry, I was muted because I didn't want to. I was eating.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, I don't agree about Isaiah Bradley. You know, that could be a freaking whole conversation for an hour. So I probably shouldn't go.
What was the thing?
I mean, yeah, he's very connected to Captain America, but I think it's the history of the story that they're trying to convey of things that actually happen in this country, and they're expressing it through Isaiah Bradley and the people that were a part of, you know, the all of them that were experimenting on, and these are things that actually happen in this country and are part of the history. So therefore, with Isaiah Bradley, I feel like that it's a very real story that they're bringing into a comic books. And yes, he's very linked to Captain America, but it's the parallels. These two characters on the opposite ends, they both do the same thing. And where do they both end up? In a very different situation, because during this time, you know, Isaiah Bradley, he can't be the face. He can't be the hero, right? So he's then locked away, you know, and then then has a regression. He can't speak. He can't do all of these things. And then, you know, Captain America, then also, because he steals Captain America's suit, he wears it, right? He does these things.
I need to read this comic.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very short comic, but it's
only a handful of issues.
It's a 7 issues. It's only 7 issues. Like you can read it like in depending on faster reader you are, you can literally read it in an hour and a half, 2 hours. But it's a very good story, and that's why I feel with these other characters. I feel I agree, but with Isaiah Bradley, I feel like it was a very important story to tell because of the things that happened in this country to Black soldiers who were being experimented on. Then they fight in these wars and how they were treated when they came home. And then also how they were on the front lines and how they were disrespected and how they were treated inside the military during this time. So for me, Isaiah Bradley's story has a whole different feel and a different take for me. That's all I wanted to say. But I have a lot.
We'll do. We could discuss it another day. But it's a kind of interesting thing for me because I don't know much about the character. But I was going to say, like, the last thing that I suppose we don't have much time to talk about it. Really, what I wanted to talk about was the Magneto kind of issue. But we can talk about that another time. But
If I may, Nerdman, I just wanted to say, Nerdman, if I may, that they wouldn't like me if I were in Hollywood because I feel like they wouldn't be able to contract me or pay me to bend the knee and all this kind of stuff. Like I would just tell it how it is, which would be highly unusual most of the time. Not these cookie cutter answers. So like, I would let them know if I were being interviewed, say about Isaiah Bradley, for example, I'd be like, yeah, he's cool. I like him. The history is there. There's a connection in reality while being connected to the Marvel universe. But I'd be like, at the end of the day, he's a tokenized version of Cap. And that is going to be the only thing that those articles pick up. They're not going to pick up anything else I said.
I don't agree with that.
But you see, but that's what I'm saying. And Ashley, I agree with you here. It seems to me that you're extending tokenized to something that isn't really because when you're telling a story that is organic, that it really is exploring things that are important, and you're actually genuinely doing it for honest reasons, then I don't see that as that being a tokenized version of the person. That's exploring a genuine story that is about something. It's not like, oh, I need to fill in a quota, so I'm going to make Isaiah Bradley. It's actually, look, let's use this Captain America story to tell an interesting alternate version, like what if he was this and how would it impact him, and they did it for genuine reasons, it seems, in this comic book. But all too often,
and I would tell the interviewer that, right? Like I would tell the interviewer that I would agree with that. I'd be like, everything you said is 100% correct, but at the same time, this character is not an original Black character. I would want the audience to know that. That's the main point. Everything else, cool, I agree with. There's a reason why I would bring him to life. And it's not just because I'm a Black man and he's Black. It has nothing to do with none of that silly shit. It has to do with, I like Marvel Comics. He is there. If I'm expanding the universe, there is a reason for it. But for the masses, most humans don't read comic books, never read a comic book in their life. I want them to know every single detail. To me, as a presenter, it would be important for me to say that.
And my point, like at the end of this, was that exactly goes into what you're saying, which is that I want more investment into the kind of Black characters whose story are their own, because in the end, as much as Isaiah Bradley is an interesting story to tell, it's always going to be tied to Captain America. It's always going to be in the shadow of, and his story almost doesn't make sense without contrasting him with Captain America.
So can you tell me a little bit more about
even though
John
it's a great story?
John Stewart, does he not have any connection to Hal Jordan? How does that work? Because I don't know anything about him.
I think that's different because they're a police force.
Okay.
Because they're a police force. That's the difference.
The thing, Ashley, right? with the Green Lantern, because that's actually a good question, Ashley. That's actually pretty common, really, when you get into these discussions, at least in terms of the ones I've been a part of. My response has always been like, the Green Lantern Corps is full of like more than 20,000 members, all like all across different races and species across the DC multiverse. So within that, that allows for you to do many different characters, and it's justified because they're picked from specific parts, and it's not so much that this character exists solely because of this one. You are just part of a big organization, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about.
Right. It's almost like
very little about them. So that's why I was asking.
No, that's a great question.
That's
Ashley,
cool.
It's a great question.
But I was going to say, to me, it's almost like the Shazam family. Then I don't see them as tokenized versions of Shazam because it's the Shazam family. They each get the powers and whatever, so they're separate characters. Whereas,
I don't
when you're,
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So I think I want to dedicate a thing about Magneto in a way, because like I think that gets to the heart of the issue of like race bending. So I think we'll have to do a separate discussion of that, because I have like a lot of things.
We could go through the Eternals bullshit too.
Oh yeah,
we could.
We could go through all of that. Change, race bending. Race, changing, gender bending, changing, making people, gay just for just for points. It's just.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. Right? Like, visually it looks good.
Yeah,
I like the music, but it's like I was only able to recognize two of the characters.
Yeah.
Karis and Thena. So the rest of them, they have been changed so much. Like, you're talking about gender and race swapping.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
simultaneously on specific characters. It's like
it kind of like my mind was like, okay, I remember so many details. It's been a long time since I read Eternals. Maybe my info is messed up. And then I was like, no, it's not. They're just messing up my head. And I had to look up which actor was playing who, and then I had to compare it. I'm like, this is so drastically different that if you show me a picture, I wouldn't be able to tell you who they were.
Yeah,
it's a problem. So
that, and not only was a trailer, I mean, like you said, visually it looks great, but it looks so boring. On top of the fact that they've race bend, gender swap, and race bend, in one character. It's just. And I know with the Eternals, they're a little bit more obscure, and a lot of people don't know who they are. But for us that know who these characters are, it's just like,
it's crazy, right? Because I was thinking, like, if you with so much agenda, like, first off, right, guys, like it's weird because I'm like, does that leave room for the story you should be telling, which is the Celestials creating the Deviants and Eternals and their long feud? Like, can you have time for all that?
Yeah. Well, no, we got to show, two people kissing and having children and all these other things just to check off boxes.
So let's have a separate stream about that. We'll do that sometime.
Okay.
We can even do it on your channel. I don't mind. But like,
what are you doing in like 3 hours? You want to do it?
Not much. I have to do Geek Speak thing, but we could talk about that off air. But apart from that, guys, do give me a high five, smash the like button. Obviously subscribe. This has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you all so much. It's always good for me to get the other side. I don't necessarily agree with everything. I agree in principle with what you're saying, but I have some arguments against what you're saying as well. But I think we need to start this debate from the beginning to really get into all of that.
I agree with most of what Terrence said. I usually do. But
I mean, as you all know, Ashley, this was my second, third time speaking with you. Warren, second, third time. you know, I like and respect all of you. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know I
Yeah.
kind of randomly barged in, so my apologies for that. Like I was not.
No, man, it's great. It's great. I
It's
wish I
always
had you here
good.
from the beginning. I guess I've got more things about like having people of different races getting jobs in Hollywood, and you know, about the kind of IPs that, you know, like certain things where you're doing something new, like like if you're trying to create a completely new superhero, for instance, that might have issues, and you want to give actors who have worked hard, who have done whatever, the opportunity to do the biggest roles, you know. And I don't think they should be limited necessarily by their race, but I understand where you guys are coming from. But I will leave it there because I was planning for this to be about 3 hours. It's gone over that time, but like it's just so fascinating talking to you guys. And
Yeah, I'm sorry. That might have been my fault.
Oh, I would have kept talking, Terrence. You know
no,
this.
it's cool.
No, you're good.
Hey,
You're
man.
good.
Hey, man. So what we'll do is I'm gonna just K Dot's here now. I'll K Dot here, like have the link, but I'm gonna go offline and then you can come in and then we'll talk about something.
Yeah, because I have a thing I want to talk about. Ow.
So yeah, guys, subscribe to Ashley the Widow. You probably have already because I'm a much smaller channel and most of the people come to my channel go to hers. But if not, do subscribe to her. Warren will have his channel soon, so look out for that. Terrence, of course, is just. Terrence, you do have a channel,
He
don't
does
you?
have a channel, yes.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of your videos.
It's
cool.
juicy.
Juicy.
Got all kinds of content on that juicy channel.
Yeah. So subscribe to Terrence as well. But apart from that, guys, I will wait. Oh, sorry, comment. I love the comments, and I'll obviously respond to the comments as well. Thanks to everyone in the chat, and guys, I guess I'm going to see you on the flip side. Love you 3000. Peace.
Great stream, Nerd Man.
Take care.
Thanks.